Chapter 31 Sudden Change. At the moment, Bailua's body was cold, her lips were pale, and she was shaking as she hugged Yining. Yining touched Bailua's forehead, it was burning hot. At least it was over 39 degrees Celsius. Damn it! Bailua must go to the hospital to get her fever down, other methods have already failed. But for now, the least we can do is keep Bailua warm. Yining rolled over to the back seat and brought all the clothes he had brought. Holding Bailua in his arms, Yining patted her cheeks gently. Ilua, can you hear me? Ha? Bailua opened her eyes weakly. Seeing that she was still conscious, Yining let out a sigh of relief. I'm going to help you take off your dress and put on my clothes, okay? Okay. Bailua didn't bat an eyelid. Yining didn't hesitate any longer and unzipped Bailua's back. The smooth, jade-like beauty of her back was revealed, and it was absolutely the most beautiful sight. But Yining couldn't afford to admire it, and he pulled Bailua's skirt all the way down. He immediately changed her into his own clothes and pants, put on his jacket, and fastened her seatbelt. Yalo, don't be afraid, I'm taking you to the hospital now, Yining said to Bailua as he started the car. In the heavy rain, on the highway, a Mercedes-Benz G-Class was speeding through the rain and wind. After 10 minutes, Yining finally saw an exit. Turning into it, they arrived at the toll station in no time. According to the navigation system, Yining drove Bailua to the nearest hospital as fast as he could. Doctor! Come quickly! Arriving at the hospital, Yining parked the car and ran towards the outpatient building, carrying Bailua in his arms. What's wrong? The doctor on duty, wearing a white coat, trotted over. It's rained, and she has a high fever. Yining said anxiously. Follow me quickly. When it came time to pay the medical bill, the system seemed to have crashed, but Yining didn't have time to worry about that. After taking Bailua's temperature, it was a whopping 39.8 degrees Celsius. Luckily, she had sent him to the hospital in time, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. Staring at Bailua, who was fast asleep in the hospital bed, Yining finally let go of her worried heart. This girl really scared him this time. Now he saw the system reward, 15% of Anshin Pharmaceutical. After a busy night, a wave of fatigue hit Yining, who fell asleep with his head leaning over Bailua's bed. By the time Yining opened his eyes, Bailua had already woken up for quite some time. Why didn't she wake me up? Bailua's eyes were soft, looking at you sleeping quite soundly. Although she had a high fever last night, the drowsy Bailuwa still knew what had happened. She remembered everything, including Yining changing her clothes and carrying her into the hospital. Whenever she thought about Yining seeing her naked, she felt a little strange. But when she thought about the anxious look on his face as he carried her into the hospital, she felt very warm. Yining, what kind of person are you really? Do you feel better? Are you still uncomfortable? Yining stood up and naturally placed the palm of his hand on Bailua's forehead. It seems like the fever has gone down. Yining said, suddenly noticing Bailua staring at him with twinkling eyes. Yining, who had come to his senses, immediately took his hand away, touched his nose, and said, Air. I'm sorry, I was worried about you, I didn't mean to. Bailua shook his head and calmly replied, It's okay, where haven't you touched me last night? Ha? It was an exceptional situation, and I did ask for your opinion. Yining thought Bailua was confused, but it turned out that she was very clear. Besides, can you not say that so calmly? At least pretend to be embarrassed. Yining rolled his eyes and couldn't help but complain. He had seen how brazen this woman really was. Shouldn't this situation be embarrassing? Believe it or not, I'm actually quite embarrassed right now, Bailua said leisurely. Yining didn't expect that this woman would also be embarrassed. Surprised, he looked at Bailua and found that her face was calm, without the slightest blush on her cheeks. He couldn't help but pout. His mother was right, the more beautiful the woman, the more likely she is to lie. What? Seeing Yining's actions, Bailua frowned slightly. It's nothing. You call this shy? What the hell is shy? Later, Yining also heard Bailua's explanation. The reason why she got caught in the rain last night was because she went out to the toilet in the middle of the night. But the wind was really strong, and even with an umbrella, she got wet all over. She had originally thought that she would wait for her clothes to dry slowly, but she ended up falling asleep and catching a cold, which led to a high fever later. Although Bailua's high fever had subsided, she could still tell that she was still a bit weak. Yining decided to stay in the hospital for another night and go back tomorrow. Recalling the promise she had made with Director Wu of Jiangchen Kangda Hospital, Yining also called to discuss the situation. Wu Jixing also expressed his understanding and told Yining not to be too anxious. Yining's words naturally reached Bai Yiluo's ears in the hospital bed, and she was a little surprised. Director Wu of Jiangchen Kangda Hospital was not someone who could be seen at will. But it was such a medical expert that Yining could befriend on equal terms. What kind of identity does Yining have, and why haven't I heard of him before in the circle? Although she was curious, she was not the kind of person who would casually inquire about other people's identities. If Yining didn't say it, she wouldn't ask. Later, Yining also received news from Mo Qingqing and Su Wire. Mo Qingqing said that she missed Yining. Although Su Wire only asked Yining when he would return to Jiangcheng, her words revealed her thoughts. Yining replied to each one. Hey, being good-looking means you'll be missed, there's nothing you can do about it. The next day, Yining woke up on the sofa in the VIP ward. Seeing that Bai Yiluo had completely recovered, Yining and Bai Yiluo had breakfast together and drove to the road again. After a bumpy ride, they finally returned to Jiangcheng at around 3 p.m. Soon after, a Mercedes-Benz drove into Jiangcheng University. Under the watchful eyes of the many students at Jiangcheng University, it passed through the teaching building and headed towards the female dormitory. Chapter 32, dropping Bai Yiluo off at school. He parked outside the girls' dormitory. Finally, he arrived. Yining stretched his neck, exhausted from the past few days. Yining, thank you for this time. Bai Yiluo looked at Yining with beautiful eyes and thanked him sincerely. If she hadn't met Yining on the road during her trip to Sichuan province, she would have had to go back the same way. Not to mention that Yining also took her to the hospital and took care of her for so long. Although there were quite a few accidents along the way, she was quite happy with the whole experience. It's okay, we're friends, after all, said Yining generously. Friends? Bai Yiluo muttered. As if remembering something, he said mysteriously to Yining, as a friend, I'll give you a gift, so close your eyes first. A gift? Close my eyes too. Could it be? Yining was a little excited, with his eyes closed and a look of anticipation on his face. Then he heard a zipper sound and a rustling sound as something was being searched for. Yining was slightly disappointed. It didn't look like what he had expected. He had thought that Bai Yiluo, a woman with no emotions, had finally come to her senses, but it seemed that she still hadn't. Okay, open your eyes. Upon hearing Bai Yiluo's words, Yining opened his eyes and saw that Bai Yiluo had brought a drawing to him. It was a sketch, and the person in the drawing was himself. He was lying next to the bed, looking as if he were asleep. This is? Yining was very surprised. This was the first time he had received such a gift. I drew you sleeping by the hospital bed that day. What do you think? Do you like it? Yining nodded, I like it, thank you. By the way, Bai Yiluo suddenly looked into Yining's eyes and said, did you think I was going to kiss you just now? Cough cough. Yining really didn't know what was going on in Bai Yiluo's head. 1 second she was talking about the drawing, and the next she was on to this topic. Although Yining did think that at first, but now that you know, can you please not say it out loud? It's embarrassing, okay? Fortunately, Yining has a thick skin, otherwise she would really be stumped by her question. She simply put on a sad face and said, yes, I was all set. What, do you want to kiss me? Bai Yiluo slightly lowered her head as if she was really considering the feasibility of this question. After thinking for a while, she finally looked back at Yining and said, next time, I'm embarrassed with so many people watching. Next time. Does that mean it's okay? Yining was just teasing her, but Bai Yiluo was actually considering it. This is an extremely serious girl. Bai Yiluo opened the car door and said, I'll go first, you be careful on the way. Bai Yiluo carried her bag and disappeared through the dormitory gate with a brisk pace. What Yining didn't know was that after he left, the Jiangcheng University forum exploded. Did you guys know? The school flower seems to be in love. The Mercedes-Benz man sent the school flower back to the dormitory. The school flower's boyfriend appeared, a rich second generation from another school, as evidenced by the pictures. There were all kinds of rumors, but none of them left a topic, which was Bai Yiluo. The rumor that Bai Yiluo's boyfriend is a second-generation rich boy was quickly seen by her best friend Ai Xian. In her opinion, she recognized at a glance that the woman in the photo was indeed Bai Yiluo. And that car, wasn't it the Mercedes-Benz that had given Bai Yilua a lift after her Ferrari broke down on the highway? Great. No wonder she didn't go back to school with me, and she even said she wanted to go somewhere else to sketch. Her iceberg best friend has finally started to melt. At this moment, one of Bai Yilua's roommates also saw this picture and looked at the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. A flash of jealousy passed across her face. She also had a rather handsome face, and in high school, she was also the school's beauty queen. With this, countless men courted her. But in college, as soon as anyone saw Bai Yilua, they would no longer pay her the slightest bit of attention. The men who approached her were also because they wanted to get close to Bai Yilua. Bai Yilua, Bai Yilua. Why do you get everything that's good, and why can you get the rich guy's attention but not me? She wants to drive a Mercedes-Benz too, and she must become someone important. Rumors were rife at school, but Yining, the protagonist, of course, knew nothing about it. Along the river, Yining returned to Yunshan Longjing. Mr. Yi, welcome home. When the Mercedes-Benz appeared at the gate, the security guard saluted. Yining exchanged pleasantries with the security guard before driving into the community. After returning home, Yining fell asleep as soon as he got there. He was really tired after the long journey. But the results were good, and his relationship with Bai Yilua in particular had developed further. It was just that Bai Yilua's comment about next time being real? Did he mean that there was a real chance that they would meet again and he would have the opportunity to woo her? Yining's mouth curled up, obviously having had a beautiful dream. Yining didn't want to be disturbed, so he turned his phone to silent mode. So he didn't notice that the phone on the bedside table was flashing, and his private messages were about to explode. When Yining woke up, he took the phone and saw 99 plus private messages on the screen. What was going on? In the blink of an eye, the world was about to end? Could he be called the sleep terminator? After opening the private message, Yining realized that it was from Feiyu Live. Although the text is different, the content points to the same thing. The PK between the young anchor Su Wire has begun. Yining patted his head, he actually forgot about this. He hurriedly clicked on the Feiyu Live broadcast, in case Su Wire had already lost, it would be funny. Of course, it didn't matter if he lost, he still had the identity of a Feiyu Live shareholder, so he could just hold another one. Chapter 33 10 emperors have been opened, and millions of rewards have been given. Shanghai, the headquarters of Feiyu Live. The senior management of Feiyu Live is also paying attention to this platform PK. Yu Shenglong kept nodding at the data in front of the screen. The planning and operation of this large-scale PK was quite good. Judging from the current trend, the initial goals have basically been achieved. It's not bad at all. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something, and he turned his head to his assistant and said, "Why isn't that Wire on the leaderboard?" He was quite impressed by Su Wire. Of course, it wasn't because of Su Wire herself, but Yining, who had spent nearly 5 billion to buy 30% of the shares of Flying Fish Live. This person was likely a real tycoon. Otherwise, who would use such a large amount of cash flow for a woman? Chairman, I have been paying attention to Su Wire you mentioned, but her current data is not good. What's going on? Yu Shenglong was a little puzzled. With a tycoon spending billions of dollars to protect her, what could possibly go wrong? Mr. Yi has probably been delayed by something and has not been online. Not only at Feiyu headquarters, but also in Su Wire's live broadcast room, the netizens are discussing it furiously. Why hasn't the Ninggu tycoon arrived yet? Did he forget? We have sent private messages to him, but I don't know if he has seen them. Luckily, Xiao Wei has passed the first round, otherwise she would have lost completely. Do you think it's possible that Ninggu's big boss has grown tired of her and lost interest in her? It's very possible. It's possible that Ninggu's big boss has already found someone new. Su Wei didn't have any particular thoughts when she saw the barrage of comments in the live broadcast room. Although she hasn't had the chance to meet Yining recently, they still exchange daily text messages or get in touch by phone. Moreover, she knows that Yining is definitely not the type to grow tired of her. Although Yining is unfaithful, she can see clearly how he feels about her. If he's not here now, he must have been delayed by something. As for the competition, Su Wei's original goal was to get past the first round, and she has already achieved that. Halfway through the second round, Su Wei's progress bar is only a fraction of the other person's. The anchor woman on the other side, Shuang, looks at Su Wei with disdain and says in a strange tone, "Sister, why hasn't your brother's account been promoted? Do you want your sister to help you promote your account?" She said this, and without waiting for Su Weier to reply, she really did a plane for Su Weier. Shuang's fans saw this and said that the anchor was really kind. Another wave of special effects of planes and rockets filled the screen. Thank you all for your gifts, little brothers. Shuang really loves you all, heart hearts. The little brothers on the other side can also come and see me, I can bring you a different experience. Shuang pouted, and there was always something implied in her words. Even when there were only 2 minutes left in the progress bar, Shuang gave Su Weier a lecture. Little sister, I don't think you're suitable to be an anchor. You can send me a private message later and I'll teach you. Of course, I'll let it go today. I have to compete in the next round later. I really envy you, little sister, that you can take a break, unlike me, who's really busy. The smug look on anchor Shuang's face made Su Weier's old fans in the broadcast room grind their teeth in anger. Damn it! Just looking at her makes me want to kick her. Exactly, is it really that impressive to get over 100,000 gifts in one battle? Ninggu big brother, that guy alone got 100,000 gifts. Ninggu big brother, come quickly, your little Weier is being bullied. Forget it, don't shout, we're definitely going to lose this battle. Yi Ning came to the broadcast room and saw the progress bar that was about to end. He let out a sigh of relief. It was a close call. Su Weier almost lost, but fortunately I arrived in time. Congratulations, Ninggu has opened Emperor *1 in this broadcast room tonight. Congratulations, Ninggu has opened Emperor *2 in this broadcast room tonight. Congratulations, Ninggu has opened Emperor *3 in this broadcast room tonight. Congratulations, Ninggu has opened Emperor *10 in this broadcast room tonight. Suddenly, a barrage of special effects hit. Everyone in the broadcast room was stunned. Emperor. Or 10. That's over 1 million. Ninggu, sorry I'm late, I'll just give you 10 emperors as a token of my sincerity. Big Boss Ninggu has finally arrived. You look the same as always after a few days apart. Big Boss Ninggu, you're worthy of the name. To be honest, I thought you'd fallen out of love, but now I know you truly love Weier. I approve of this marriage. Big Boss's Versailles, over 1 million is just a token. Anchor woman, snap out of it, Boss Ninggu is here to marry you on a rainbow cloud. Su Weier was also shocked by the Emperor's super special effects. She only recovered when she saw the comments from the live streaming audience. Thank you, Boss Ninggu, for activating the 10 emperors. Su Weier was beaming with joy. Although it had something to do with the competition, the more important reason was the appearance of Yi Ning. When Shuang saw the first emperor appear in Su Weier's live streaming room, her face instantly turned ugly. However, because the total reward for this PK was more than 150,000, as long as this emperor boss didn't continue to give rewards, she would still be able to advance. Therefore, the host Shuang kept silently chanting in her heart, don't give rewards, don't give rewards. However, things did not go as she wished. After one emperor, the special effects of the emperors continued to be activated. Su Weier's gift bar, which had been suppressed to only a little bit, immediately reversed. Although she knows she definitely can't win, Shuang can only fake cry and act miserable. Brothers, please help Shuang. The emperor effect on the other side is so cool, Shuang wants it too. But the older brother in her broadcast room is also just a small boss worth a few million. It would be great if he could spend tens of thousands, but how could he open an emperor for her? At this moment, an ID named Tonight Ninggu came to Shuang's broadcast room. Chapter 34, Yi Ning's counterattack. Shuang rubbed her eyes, thinking she had seen it wrong. Yes. It was the super boss on the other side who had opened 10 emperors. He really came. Does that mean he doesn't just give gifts to Xiao Wei? That means she still has a chance. And this is a super boss, as long as she can tie him up, she won't have a problem making millions a month in the future. Shuang's eyes twinkled, and she came up with a plan. She pursed her lips and spoke in a low voice, welcome, Brother Yi Ning. Brother Yi Ning, you have opened so many gifts for the anchor opposite, Shuang really admires you. While she was talking, she deliberately pulled down the collar in front of her a little bit, revealing a large expanse of snow-white skin. Then, she clicked on Yi Ning's avatar and sent a private message. When Yi Ning saw the message prompt from this anchor, he scoffed and didn't even open it, just throwing it straight into the trash. A plane appeared with a message. How did the anchor get into such a mess? I'll send you a plane to help you out. Also, I don't think you're cut out to be an anchor. Why don't you contact Weier and ask her to teach you? Of course, you can't do that today because Wei is going to be promoted and won't have time to help you like you do. When Shuang saw the plain Yining sent, she thought her private message had had an effect. But when these barrage of comments appeared, she understood that Yining was mocking her. She immediately gritted her teeth with hatred. Su Wei's live broadcast room saw Yining's actions and expressed their relief. The host on the opposite side was about to be killed by the Ninggu big guy. It made me laugh to death. Is this repaying someone in their own way? I've learned. The Ninggu big guy is also very boyfriend-like. Host, you should quickly pledge your love. The second round of the competition is finally over, and Su Wei has successfully advanced. Moreover, the data on the millions of gifts she has received has catapulted her into the top 10. For a time, many netizens noticed the live rankings and clicked into Su Wei's live broadcast room. When they saw Su Wei's appearance, many people clicked to follow her on their own. It is now very difficult to find a pure and beautiful female host like Su Wei. Su Wei was also very happy to see her fan count rise, and after singing a few songs, this is thanks to Yu Shanglong, who specifically instructed that Su Wei's live broadcast room be placed on the first page. Otherwise, it would have been a long time before 100,000 followers were reached. Ninggu big brother, the third round of the PK has begun. Are you okay? Please remove the question mark. Didn't you see that Ninggu big brother said a million was just a figure of speech? Tonight, Ninggu, you guys do whatever you want, I'm invincible. See, the big brother has spoken. Can this still be called a big brother? This is clearly a jewel. Su Wei saw Yining's stance and knew that it meant for her to continue the PK. This time, she was connected to an outdoor anchor with 3 million followers, Kai Go. Judging from the names of the streamers in his broadcast room, it can be guessed that this is an entire guild preparing to support him, and it seems that this will be a tough battle. Kai Ji's eyes lit up when he saw Su Wei. This female anchor is just too good-looking, isn't she? And from his many years of experience broadcasting live, this female anchor is definitely a top-notch beauty in real life as well. This is the fate that heaven has brought him. He not only has to win this PK, but also impress this female anchor. After getting to know each other, he can ask her out in private. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Brother Kai swallowed, put on a gentlemanly appearance, and said, "Hi, beautiful, nice to meet you." When Su Wei saw Brother Kai's expression, a flash of disgust crossed her eyes, but she still nodded politely and said hello. Brother Kai acted as if he hadn't noticed Su Wei's attitude towards him, looking completely unconcerned. "Beauty, I'm looking behind you. Is this your home?" Su Wei nodded expressionlessly. After getting a response from Su Wei, Brother Kai said in a familiar tone, "I think your home is still a bit too small. Look at mine, it's less than 1,000 square meters. What do you think? Do you like it?" Saying this, he pointed the camera around the house and deliberately paused in front of the key to the Porsche 718, as if he were showing off. At this time, the streamers in Kai's live broadcast room also started to frantically send gifts. The number of gifts quickly broke through the 1 million mark, and there was no sign of it stopping. Kai's mouth curled up. He didn't believe that the pure and innocent little anchor opposite him would remain indifferent after seeing his house, car, and the gift income from the live broadcast room. At that time, if he gives just a little, this little beauty will be easily won over. "I'm going to go, I feel so disgusted with that anchor opposite. Indeed, I really don't know what to brag about, just a Porsche 718. Alas, for a character like Ninggu Big Brother, it is naturally a drop in the bucket, but for ordinary people, it is still something to brag about. Ninggu tonight, there really isn't anything to brag about. Xiao Wei has a Porsche 911. What? Big Brother, are you serious? That's a Porsche 911. Ninggu tonight, of course not, we bought it together. Wow. Is this really Big Brother? He just gave away a 911? I'm really impressed. Big Brother Ninggu is awesome. By the way, Big Brother, when are you going to help the anchor woman with her gifts? The other side has already given away over 1 million. Seeing Su Wei's gift bar being crushed, some netizens started to worry. Of course they weren't afraid that Yi Ning couldn't come up with the money. What they were afraid of was what if the opponent was swiping too much and Yi Ning didn't have enough speed to catch up in time. If that happened, it would be such a shame to lose. Yi Ning saw the barrage of comments from these people and turned his gaze to the anchor, Brother Kai, with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Ninggu tonight, I'm not going to swipe this round, it's useless to swipe more, let's save it for the next round. Chapter 35, The Sad Brother Kai. Ah. Boss Ninggu, if you lose this round, you won't have anything left, so what's there to talk about the next round for? Yeah, boss, are you serious? Even Su Wire didn't quite understand what Yi Ning meant. Could it be that he didn't know the mechanism of PK? Of course, she didn't say anything. As long as it was Yi Ning's decision, she would support it unconditionally. Naturally, there were fans of Brother Kai in Su Wire's broadcast room, and these people acted as spies. When they saw that the only big boss in Su Wire's live broadcast room, Yi Ninggu, said tonight that he would not give gifts, they were simply overjoyed. So what if you're rich? You're a fool. You want to wait for the next round? Wait until next year. The anchor Kaigu also got the news at the first opportunity, and was overjoyed, feeling that he had already won. He immediately said to Su Wire, "Beauty, it seems that the big boss in your live broadcast room is not very good. Do you want to come to my guild? Our guild has many big brothers. As long as you come, I can introduce you. I've already sent you a private message. When the time comes, come to my house and find me, and we can have an in-depth exchange." As he spoke, Brother Kai's pupils flashed with a sinister light, and he was already imagining the way this beauty would look lying in his arms. Upon hearing Brother Kai's words, Yi Ning's expression turned cold, and he typed directly on the public screen, "Who's in charge of the Feiyu platform? Let's chat in private." In the demon capital, Yu Xinglong's assistant had been paying attention to Su Wire's live broadcast room. Kidding, this is a host that Yi Ning has been pushing alone, how can he not pay attention? When he saw the message Yi Ning sent, he immediately notified Yu Shenglong. Yu Shenglong immediately gave the order to the operations director to contact Yi Ning personally. In less than 2 minutes, Yi Ning received the call. Hello? Hello, Mr. Yi, this is Su Chang, the operations director of Feiyu Live. Chairman, you told me to contact you. Well, I have 2 requests. Okay, Mr. Yi, please go ahead. First, permanently ban the live broadcast room of the person named Brother Kai and permanently freeze his account. Second, you find someone to vote for Xiaowei, and make sure she comes in first in this competition. The money will go through the company account, and you can tell me how much is missing, and I'll make up the difference. Yes, I promise to complete the task. Su Chang said solemnly, joking, these are the words of the 2 bosses, how could they not carry them out? In the live broadcast room, Brother Kai was about to ask Su Wei for her phone number when suddenly, the screen went black. Before Kai could react, his live broadcast room was shut down. Within less than a minute, he could no longer even log into his account. What was going on? Kai's forehead was covered in cold sweat. After broadcasting for so many years, this was the first time he had encountered such a situation. He had signed a contract, and if he failed to enter the top 10, he would have to face huge compensation fees. Kai's guild was also notified at the first opportunity. When they inquired, the staff member only left one sentence. He has angered a real big shot. When the guild leader heard this explanation, his back was wet with cold sweat. Don't look at him as a guild leader, with nearly 100 million assets at home. But compared to those big shots, there is still a world of difference. As for the person Kaigu provoked, does it need to be said? Just now, he kept hinting that the hostess named Xiaowei was just coveting someone else's beauty, right? Dare covet a big shot's woman, it's like not wanting to live anymore. The guild leader was furious. He had spent so much money to get that Kaigu to where he was today, and now it was all for nothing. Who was he going to get to pay for the damage? He could only go after that Kaigu. The guild leader took out a contract, and the 50 million compensation fee on it was particularly glaring. As for Su Weier, when she saw that Kai Ji's live broadcast room was suddenly shut down, she was very happy in her heart. For these 10 minutes, she had been annoyed by this Kaigu. If it weren't for all the streamers in the broadcast room, I really wanted to turn off my computer and just leave. Host, it seems that Kaigu has been banned from the live streaming world. Yes, there's been an announcement. Oh my, it really is. Why would he be banned? It's just been a moment, it's so strange. Do you guys remember what the Ninggu Big Boss just said? Yes, did the Ninggu Big Boss know that Kaigu was going to be banned, so he said that there was no need to send gifts in this round? Wake up! Obviously, Brother Kai was dealt with by Ninggu Big Brother. Have you forgotten that Ninggu Big Brother shouted at the flying fish platform? This is terrifying. From today on, I truly realize that all the other Big Brothers are Big Brothers who have been blown up, and Ninggu Big Brother is the real Big Brother. Even Su Weier had some doubts, and immediately picked up her phone to send a message asking, "Is that you? What do you think? How the hell did you do it? Su Weier was at a loss for an answer when she received Yining's affirmation. Logically speaking, Yining didn't send many gifts, and even fewer than those in the super guilds. But why did he have such a big influence? I have shares in Feiyu and am one of their owners. How do you think I did it? Ah. Su Weier never would have guessed that Yining was actually a shareholder of Feiyu Live. That's a multi-billion-dollar company, so how rich is Yining? And it doesn't look like he's a small shareholder, he's even a major shareholder who can influence the board of directors of Feiyu. You really surprised me, Su Weier replied. Do you like it? MMM. Yining's mood was great when he saw Su Weier's message, very great. He immediately clicked on Mo Qingqing's chat box. A conversation full of colors made Mo Qingqing blush. A scumbag naturally has to take care of everyone. The PK continued, but Yining had already issued orders, so naturally, every round, many insiders used their microphones to come to Su Weier's live broadcast room to reward her. No matter how hard the anchor on the opposite side tried, they would always lose to Su Weier by a considerable margin. Everyone guessed that this was the work of the Ninggu big boss again. Finally, the PK came to the final round. Chapter 36 Yu Shanglong took the initiative to invite Su Weier to the finals. Her opponent was a major anchor with tens of millions of followers, Chang Xier. Last year, she had a good chance of winning, but in the end, she lost to the first place by a narrow margin. This year, she met the anchor who beat her last year early and won a complete victory. Now Chang Xier is very confident that the championship is already in the bag. Especially when she saw that her opponent was a new anchor with a number of fans that was not even close to her own. Although it was strange how Su Weier had made it to the finals, it would be better to encounter such a weak opponent in the finals and win in a crushing manner, wouldn't it? Thinking about this, Chang Xier pretended to be weak and fragile in the live broadcast room and said, "Brothers in the live broadcast room, there seems to be a very powerful boss opposite me. Xier is very scared, and you must help me, brothers." Seeing Chang Xier's appearance, the water friends in the live broadcast room blushed and clamored. "Xier, don't worry, we'll help you hit the charts as soon as the competition starts. Yes, give the other side a taste of their own medicine and make them know when to quit." A broadcaster who doesn't even have 1 million followers is trying to compete with a broadcaster with tens of millions. That's really laughable. After several rounds of competition, Su Weier's number of followers also reached more than 800,000. Chang Xier of course knew that simply acting cute in the broadcast room would not get her that many followers. Without hesitation, she sent private messages to those emperors in the broadcast room. "Brother Zhang, please support Xier more later, and we can go out for dinner together. Brother Zhao, help Xier win the championship, and that outfit you mentioned last time, I can wear it too. Brother Qian, Xier bought a new set of pajamas, so in a few days, can you help Xier check the quality?" The other streamers in the broadcast room didn't know that in just a short while, their goddess, Chang Xier, had arranged to meet with no less than 20 big brothers. If Yining had known, he would have been unable to hold back his admiration for Chang Xier. This is a role model in the industry. She has made great sacrifices for her career. Just as Chang Xier had begun to imagine her acceptance speech for winning the championship, the gift channel finally opened. In an instant, the gift bar showed a huge disparity of 9-1, forming a crushing momentum. Chang Xier was full of pride, thinking to herself, just as I expected. She was about to thank her bosses for the reward when she suddenly saw a barrage of comments fly past. Holy shit! The other side is so fierce. We spent 3 million, but we're still being crushed by the other side. What? Being crushed by the other side? Chang Xier rubbed her eyes and looked again. She then noticed that the gift progress bar was indeed 9-1. But it wasn't her 9 and Su Weier's 1, as she had imagined. It was just the opposite. How is this possible? How could a small anchor with only a few 100,000 followers have so many bosses sending her money? Chang Xier almost couldn't hold the mouse steady, and silently clicked to view Su Weier's live broadcast room. She was shocked. Is this still human? There are hundreds of emperors alone, plus all kinds of other VIPs, and countless rewards. It's impossible to get it all without tens of millions of dollars. What kind of terrifying existence is the boss behind her? On Su Weier's list, Ninggu's name is at the top of the list tonight. The amount of rewards has reached a staggering 10 million. The key is the gifts that Su Weier has received today. Seeing Ninggu's name tonight, Chang Xier is very jealous. 10 million, and it's just for one day. If she gets it, doesn't it mean that she has received 7 million from this man today, excluding the platform's commission? Thinking about the people on her live broadcast list, the reason why they rewarded hundreds of thousands of dollars, which of them was not earned by her body? Thinking about this, Chang Xier suddenly felt very meaningless. What has she been pursuing all these years? The anchor industry is a big dying workshop. She, Chang Xier, has gained a lot of money, but she has lost the most precious thing. Staring at the beautiful and youthful Su Wire across from her, Chang Xier felt a strong sense of inferiority. For the first time, she felt that she was actually so dirty and despicable. It's like a broken egg that's been sitting there for a long time, it stinks. The live broadcast ended, and Su Wire's gift list reached more than 39 million, and Chang Xier couldn't even come close to matching her. Together with the rewards from the previous few PKS, Su Wire had received nearly 60 million rewards in one day. Her number of followers also broke through 5 million, officially becoming a big anchor. At this time, a special effect of opening the Emperor appeared, attracting the attention of many netizens. Wow! It's Yu Shenglong! Yu Shenglong came to open the Emperor for the anchor, and Little Wei Air is also very impressive. What do you mean Little Wei Air is impressive? It's obviously the boss of Ninggu who is impressive. Who is this Yu Shenglong you are talking about? Isn't he just an emperor? Has the anchor not received many emperors tonight? You don't even know Yu Shenglong? He is the chairman of Feiyu Live. Yes, the gift from the head of Feiyu Live, do you think it's not impressive? Some uninformed streamers only then realized that it was the chairman of Feiyu Live who had come, and he was also the official account. Although Su Wei knew that Yi Ning was a shareholder of Feiyu Live, the arrival of Yu Shenglong still took her by surprise. Su Wei was very excited, and all of this was brought to her by Yi Ning. Ever since she met Yi Ning, she has been very lucky. In fact, she is even a little glad that she was forced to give up her seat as a flight attendant because of those trivial matters. Then it is very likely that she would never have met Yi Ning, and she would not have made such a splash in the live broadcast room today. Yu Shenglong typed directly on the public screen, saying that the host sings well and to keep up the good work. Su Wei, I appreciate the chairman's affirmation, and I will definitely work hard. Yu Shenglong, Yi Zong, when are you coming to the Magic City? We'll have a drink. Yi Ninggu tonight, sure, I'll definitely be there. Yu Shenglong. Ah, that's good. Neither of them had private messages, so they just started chatting in the live broadcast room. When other streamers saw Yi Ning's conversation with Yu Shenglong, they all worshipped the big boss. Yi Ning's phone kept getting private messages, and a large portion of them were from Feiyu Live broadcasters. They all want to get to know a super boss like Yi Ning. If they are lucky enough to be appreciated by the boss, they will not become overnight sensations like Su Wei, but at least their live streaming careers will go smoothly. However, Yi Ning simply ignored them all and directly closed the private messages. This made the male anchors sigh in frustration, leaving the female anchors to lament alone. Of course, after the competition was over, Yi Ning took the initiative to contact Su Chang, the operations director. He had used money from the company account today, so of course he would not forget. Chapter 37 Meeting Wu Jixing. Su Chang had thought Yi Ning would have to wait at least a few days to come up with nearly 50 million in cash. Unexpectedly, as soon as he hung up the phone, the finance department reported that Yi Ning had already transferred the money to the company account. To be able to come up with so much money in just a few minutes, this is amazing. Ding! The host, Su Wei, has spent 46.5 million and received a critical strike, and is rewarded with a school district house worth 600 million. A school district house. And it's a whole building. This is so cool. Yi Ning used to envy the old ladies who owned dozens of houses. Every day they carried a bunch of keys, collected rents in the morning and played mahjong in the afternoon. Now he can do the same. Not only does he have a school district house to collect rents, but also a commercial street and office buildings. The annual rent is a proper astronomical figure. Early the next morning, as soon as Yi Ning got up, he received an internal call from the property manager Luo Rongrong. Mr. Yi, there's a package for you here. It's been delivered to the door for you, so please check it. Okay, I'll be right out. When he opened the door, Luo Rongrong was driving a small sightseeing car with several packages of different sizes in the back. Of course, the most eye-catching one was Yi Ning's huge cardboard box. Good morning, Mr. Yi. When Yi Ning opened the door, Luo Rongrong's eyes lit up. She wasn't sure if Yi Ning was the richest person in Yunshan Longjing, but he was definitely the most handsome. What's more, he was so young, and if she could really have a relationship with him, naturally she would be willing. But Yining just smiled and said hello to her, picked up a pen, wrote his name, and then carrying the large cardboard box, turned around and entered the house. His eyes didn't even linger on Luo Rongrong's face for even a second. Could it be that she really was that unattractive? Luo Rongrong touched her smooth face and stared blankly at the door to Yining's villa. Yining opened the cardboard box, which contained dozens of red property ownership certificates. And they were all for the same building, which was still pretty cool. The days of being a landlord were here. It took a lot of effort to get the box into the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. Today, Yining still had to go to Jiangchun Kangda Hospital, and after that, he would list the property with a rental company. When he arrived at the hospital, Yining dialed Wu Jixing's phone number. "President Wu, where is your office?" "I'm coming over now." Wu Jixer was just taking a break when Yining called. "Mr. Yi, have you arrived?" "I'll come downstairs to pick you up." Yining said nonchalantly, "Dean Wu, just tell me where you are. I don't like all that formal stuff. Let's just meet in private." Wu Jixer was a little taken aback by Yining's words, but he warmed to him a little. He had a good impression of Yining from their previous conversation, and after getting to know each other a little, he could tell that Yining was not the type to put on airs. Although Wu Jixer did not come to the hospital gate, when Yining arrived at the office building, he still saw a little old man in a white coat who looked to be in his 70s and had a ruddy complexion. "President Wu?" Seeing that Wu Jixer did not seem to see him, Yining took the initiative to greet him. Upon hearing Yining's words, Wu Jixer finally widened his eyes in shock. "You are Mr. Yi?" "Yes, it's me." Yining took the initiative to shake Wu Jixer's hand. When Wu Jixing saw Yining, he was shocked. It was impossible for him not to be shocked. The main reason was that Yining was really too young. Although he could tell over the phone that Yining was not too old, he definitely did not expect Yining to be a young man in his 20s. As Wu Jixing and Yining walked into the office building, other workers at the hospital couldn't help but look over. They didn't know who Yining was. But who in Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital didn't know Wu Jixing? Or rather, who in the entire city of Jiangcheng, who is not in the medical profession, does not know Wu Jixer? Originally, Wu Jixer was at the entrance to the office building, and they thought he was waiting for some important person. Unexpectedly, it was just a young man in his 20s. And it seemed that Wu Jixer also had great respect for this young man. They stared at Yining's face for a long time, replaying this person's appearance countless times in their minds. If they encounter him in the future, they will definitely not provoke this person, let alone befriend him. In the dean's office, Yining and Wu Jixer talked for more than an hour. He didn't want to get involved in management in the first place. So he and Wu Jixer just agreed on the basic direction of the hospital's future development. Most of the power was still completely handed over to the little old man. Wu Jixer secretly let out a sigh of relief in his heart and gradually let go. He was right in thinking that Yining was not the kind of person who would forget about righteousness and money at the sight of it. Just like the special medical fund for poor children established by the hospital before. The money was actually used by the owner of Kangda Hospital, that is, Yining's money. But Yining did not hesitate for a moment, and resolutely decided to keep the project, and even doubled the funding assistance. This move deeply moved Wu Jixer, an elderly man who has been in the medical profession for decades. It is said that doctors have benevolent hearts. Although Yining is not a doctor, he will do his utmost to help others. After finishing his conversation with Wu Jixer, Yining went to the first floor and was on his way to the bathroom. Suddenly, he saw a middle-aged, plump woman in her 30s rushing out of the office at the end of the corridor. The woman was full of resentment, angrily looking at the man in the other room and shouting at him, "Lu Hong, you take bribes and line your own pockets, aren't you afraid of being reported?" "Reported? Ha, you might as well ask, who here would dare to report me?" From the office came extremely arrogant remarks. Immediately afterwards, a fat man with a big head and a ferocious face came to the corridor. He stared at the beautiful woman with lustful eyes and said, "Xiao Tong, I have said that it is very easy for me to sign. First, find a place tonight, let's have a drink and talk slowly. Or let your boss come and talk to me in person." When he said this, Lu Hong seemed to remember something, and lustful light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 38 Arrogant Lu Hang. Yining never thought that she would see such a scene in the hospital. It really is true that there are all kinds of people in the world. A person's character really has little to do with their education. In fact, people with poor character but high education are even more harmful to society. Just like the female graduate student who went viral online earlier, slandering an uncle for taking photos without permission. When this incident broke out, it shocked everyone's views. Xiao Tong felt sick at the hint from Lu Hong and almost wanted to vomit. She is at least the sales manager of Anshin Pharmaceutical, and yet she was threatened like this by Lu Hang. What's more infuriating is that Lu Hong, this arrogant person, actually dares to covet the current chairman of Anshin Pharmaceutical. What a toad trying to eat swan meat. Lu Hong, put away your dirty thoughts, don't even think about it. Xiao Tong shouted angrily. Lu Hong sneered, Xiao Tong, don't think I don't know the problems your company is facing. When the time comes and she, Annie, steps down from her position as chairman, I don't think you'll be able to keep your job as sales director. And when that happens, don't come begging to me, ha ha ha. Lu Hong was not at all flustered by Xiao Tong's rejection. He was the head of the procurement department at Kangda Hospital, not to mention the fact that he had a father who was the vice president. Xiao Tong would have to beg him if she wanted to sell medical equipment to Kangda Hospital. Now that there are sharp conflicts between the senior management of Anshin Pharmaceutical, he doesn't believe Xiao Tong doesn't know the importance of this order from Kangda Hospital. Xiao Tong, let me tell you, as long as I, Lu Hong, don't give my approval, no one will dare to accept this order, so you can forget about it. Oh? From the sound of your voice, does that mean you own this Kangda Hospital? At this moment, a young man wearing a designer suit, good-looking, and looking a little lazy, came up to the two of them. He looked at Lu Hong with a smile, his face full of mockery. The person who came was naturally Yi Ning. He had originally planned to see what the situation was like, but when he heard the name Anshin Pharmaceutical, his heart stirred. Although he didn't know much about the company, he had only obtained 15% of the shares 2 days ago, and now he was a shareholder of Anshin Pharmaceutical. Listening to the conversation between the two, it seemed that Anshin Pharmaceutical was not very simple, and there was a lot of water. There was a lot of water, and it was also deep. Others don't care, but Yi Ning likes it. He wants to see what kind of den of thieves it is and he will break in no matter what. Kid, do you know who I am? Lu Hong had long since seen Yi Ning watching the show from the sidelines. If you're going to watch a show, just be quiet and enjoy it, why do you have to come out and pretend to be something you're not? Can't you see that so many people around here are being sensible and not saying anything? Can't you even tell the mood of the moment? Seeing Yi Ning was so young, Lu Hong subconsciously thought that Yi Ning was a student who had just graduated from medical school and came to Kangda Hospital to look for a job. Such a person can be manipulated at will as long as Lu Hong wants. It's just that, alert, he has a father who is the vice president. Without answering Lu Heng's question, Yi Ning just smiled faintly and took a step forward. I don't know who you are and I don't want to know. But I can tell from your words that you are not qualified to work in a hospital, let alone be a doctor. Yi Ning's voice grew louder as he pointed at the entrance to the office building and said, now, pack up your things and get out of here. Yi Ning's voice was not small, and naturally it attracted the attention of many people. Even people upstairs came down to watch the fun. Seeing Lu Hong on the verge of a rage, they all silently sympathized with the young man. Who did you have to mess with but this guy? However, some of them recognized Yi Ning as the young man that Dean Wu had personally greeted just now. They sneered. They had long been unhappy with Lu Hong, who took advantage of his father and behaved like a tyrant. Now this young master had appeared, and it was likely that he was related to Dean Wu. It would be great to let him deal with Lu Hong. Of course, no one thought that Lu Hang would be expelled, and at most he would be slightly punished. Who could blame him for having a father who was the vice dean? This is quite novel today, isn't it? Lu Hong sneered. To be honest, no one has ever dared to tell me to get lost after working here for so long. Kid, do you think you're more important than my father, the vice president? Immediately, Lu Hong looked arrogant. Having a vice president for a father had always been his boast. Seeing Yi Ning remain silent, Lu Hong was even more pleased with himself. You dare tell me to get lost? What now? You don't dare speak, do you? A hothead like you, still so arrogant. If you can get a job at Kangda Hospital, I, Lu Hong, will believe you. Yi Ning gave Lu Hong a cold look and said calmly, I don't have a position at Kangda Hospital. Lu Heng's mouth curled up slightly upon hearing this. He knew right away that this was a fool. Perhaps he has a little money and thinks he's something, but in Lu Heng's opinion, people like this are just idiots. But the next second, Yi Ning's words made Lu Heng's heart thump. But I have just taken over this hospital, so I can be considered the owner. What? The owner? Everyone present, including Xiao Tong, who was standing silently in the corner, looked at Yi Ning in disbelief. This young man, who looked like he had just graduated, was the owner behind Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital? Those present who had just witnessed Wu Jixing welcoming Yi Ning understood. So that's it, no wonder why President Wu would respect a young man so much. It's not because Yi Ning has a terrifying background, but because this person is someone that others dare not provoke. Lu Hong also hesitated a little, because Yi Ning was too confident. But he still didn't believe that such a young person could take over Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital. What's more, his father is the vice president of the hospital, so why didn't he say anything about the change of boss? Thinking about this, Lu Hong pointed at Yi Ning, his veins bulging. How dare you, creating rumors and trouble in the hospital? Do you think I won't dare to move you? Chapter 39 I'm not happy. I think you're the one who's bold. How dare you point your finger at Mr. Yi so openly? Do you think your father can really protect you? As soon as Lu Hong finished speaking, a voice came from the stairwell, belonging to an elderly man. Everyone present, except Yi Ning, had their pupils shrink, because they were all very familiar with this voice. This was the voice of the dean, Wu Jixing, and even he was calling Yi Ning sir. Mr. Yi, are you okay? Amidst the shocked gazes of the crowd, Wu Jixing came to Yi Ning's side. Wu Jixing's attitude validated what Yi Ning had said. This person was indeed the owner of Kangda Hospital, someone who could make them pack up and leave with just a word. Lu Hong now had cold sweat breaking out on his back. He never would have imagined that he would have offended the boss. He had even tried to lay hands on the boss when the latter had revealed his identity. Mr. Yi, I was wrong, I spoke without thinking, please forgive me. Lu Hong was in a state of panic, bowing repeatedly to apologize. Forgive you? Yi Ning snorted. I said it before, you are not fit to practice medicine, now get the hell out of here. President Wu, and his father, the vice president, should also investigate this thoroughly. If there are problems, deal with them as you see fit. Yi Ning sighed, exclaiming that there were really such assholes in all walks of life. They enjoyed the fruits of the people's labor, but in turn used the power bestowed upon them by the people to bully and threaten. People like this, Yi Ning really found it hard to forgive. Right, Xiao Tong, is that your name? Wait here for a moment, I need to have a word with President Wu. I still need to see you later. Xiao Tong was slightly surprised to hear Yi Ning's words. She wondered why Yi Ning, such a big boss, would want to leave her alone. Could it be that he had some unique preferences? Thinking about this, Xiao Tong couldn't help blushing. But she was now asking Yi Ning for a favor, so of course she didn't dare to disobey Yi Ning. As for what Yi Ning really wanted in the future, she could only deal with it as it happened. Yi Ning and Wu Jixing walked out of the office building and came to an empty flower bed. At first, neither of them spoke, and after a long silence, Yi Ning spoke first. Dean Wu, I hope this is the only time this will happen. Yi Ning's expression was calm, but his tone revealed a hint of indifference. Wu Jixing nodded and promised, Mr. Yi, don't worry, I will definitely investigate the Lu father and son matter thoroughly. Yi Ning shook his head and said, you know I'm not talking about that. Since your intentions are good, I'll play along with you. Wu Jixing was shocked, and then a wry smile appeared on his face. In the end, Yi Ning had discovered it. He had originally admired this young boss, but it was only now that he truly felt that this young man was remarkable. Yes, it was all an arrangement by Wu Jixing. Lu Hang and his son had too much power in the hospital, and even he, the hospital director, could not control them. As a result, the two men acted like tyrants in the hospital, corrupting the atmosphere. It so happened that in the past few days, someone from Anqing Pharmaceutical had come looking for Lu Hong, the purchasing manager, every day. So Wu Jixing thought about letting Yi Ning, the new boss, see it and take care of the father and son. Although the intention was good, the goal was achieved. But Yi Ning was indeed taken advantage of. Yi Ning really hated people like Lu Hong, but being taken advantage of for no reason made him feel a bit uncomfortable. Mr. Yi, don't worry, I was forced to do it this time, and it will never happen again. Well, that's good. After the two finished talking, Yi Ning found Xiao Tong. I didn't pay much attention before, but now that I'm free, I can take a closer look. For a man, this woman is really attractive. If we're just talking about looks, Xiao Tong is nowhere near as good as Bai Iluo. At most, she's a pretty good-looking woman. But when it comes to body shape, Xiao Tong really is the kind of woman with a curvy figure, plump and full of charm. This is what people mean when they say stunner, so it's no wonder that Lu Hong is so infatuated. Regardless of his character, at least Lu Hong has good taste. Mr. Yi, can you stop staring at me like that? Although she is already a 35-year-old mother, Xiao Tong is still a little uncomfortable being stared at by a man in his 20s. Of course, she is uncomfortable because Yi Ning is very handsome. If he were ugly, she would be disgusted. There is nothing she can do. In a face-obsessed society, it is really a lot more convenient to be handsome. Not to mention the modern world, wasn't it the same in ancient society? If someone is handsome, a woman will be willing to marry him. If someone is ugly, he will be willing to become a cowherd in his next life just to repay you. Cough. Yi Ning cursed himself inwardly for being shameless. There were people like Mo Qingqing, and yet he was staring at a young woman. I'm sorry. Yi Ning apologized and said, how about this, it's almost noon, let me buy you lunch, and then we can chat. Lunch? And then chat? What are we going to talk about? Are you sure you don't mean flirt? Xiao Tong's face turned red, and the way she looked at Yi Ning was quite strange. It seemed that a handsome young man really did have a special fetish. But thinking that she absolutely could not lose such a big client as Kangda Hospital, Xiao Tong could only nod. I hope it's not what I think it is. If it is, I'll just have to improvise. Let's go, then. After lunch, I have to go to the real estate agency. It's going to be a busy day. Upon hearing Yi Ning's words, Xiao Tong's body trembled, and she almost lost her balance. The mountains shook. We're going to the real estate agency already? You want to support me before we even eat? With beautiful eyes, she looked at Yi Ning's back, gritted her teeth, and walked with determined steps of self-sacrifice. Chapter 40 Anshin Pharmaceutical. Do you want to eat something? Yi Ning asked casually while driving. Xiao Tong shook her head and said, whatever you want to do. Okay, let's go to Jiangnan Hotel. Is that good? As the boss, Yi Ning is either courting girls or on his way to courting girls almost every day. He hardly cares about his own business. Since he has to eat anyway, he might as well go check it out. No, that's not good, right? Xiao Tong stammered. Is this man so impatient? Going straight to the hotel? After eating at the hotel, how can she, Xiao Tong, escape? What's not good about it? The food there is pretty good, don't worry. Yi Ning was a little surprised. Didn't you say you'd eat whatever? Is this the fickle side of women? As soon as Yi Ning's car entered the Jiangnan Hotel, the security guard gave a standard salute. Hello, Mr. Yi. Yi Ning nodded with a smile. Not bad, quite energetic. He was quite satisfied with the hotel, and it seemed that Wu Yuan was managing it quite well. Next month, raise the salaries of the Jiangnan Hotel staff, Yi Ning thought. Xiao Tong's pupils in the passenger seat flickered. She was not deaf, and she had clearly heard the security guard at the Jiangnan Hotel address Yi Ning as Mr. Yi. Could it be that he also has a stake in the Jiangnan Hotel? Moreover, the Jiangnan Hotel was originally part of the Jiangnan Commercial Street. So Yi Ning is not only the owner behind Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital, but also owns property in Jiangnan Commercial Street? Thinking about this, Xiao Tong suddenly felt that this handsome man was quite mysterious. How many identities does he have? Boss, you're here? Yi Ning parked the car, and the two of them had just reached the lobby door when Wu Yuan, who had been the first to get the news, was already waiting. The tall receptionist ladies on both sides also bowed. Hello, Mr. Yi. Well, hello to you all. Yi Ning greeted them, patting Wu Yuan on the shoulder. Well done, starting next month, all staff bonuses will be doubled. The hotel staff all beamed with excitement at Yi Ning's words. As long as they didn't make any major mistakes at the Jiangnan Hotel, they would receive a monthly bonus, and it wasn't a small amount. With the bonus doubled next month, wouldn't that be equivalent to double their salary? How could they not be happy with such good news? It was great to have such a generous boss. Under Wu Yuan's arrangement, a pretty receptionist led Yi Ning and Xiao Tong to a huge private room. The room was luxuriously decorated and resplendent. Knowing Xiao Tong's tastes, Yi Ning casually ordered a few specialty dishes. When the receptionist left the room, she looked enviously at Xiao Tong sitting across from Yi Ning. After leaving the restaurant, she looked at her slightly immature appearance in the mirror and felt sad. Men really like big things. Even rare men like he always do. And yes, tastes are really unique, he actually likes less. Yi Ning didn't know that coming to have a meal with Xiao Tong would result in him being given the title of Xiao the Thief. After the food was served, Yi Ning began to get to the point. I heard Lu Hong say that there are disagreements among the shareholders of Anshin Medicine. What's going on? Tell me in detail. Xiao Tong thought of many ways to deal with Yi Ning's attack. But she never imagined that Yi Ning just wanted to understand the internal conflicts of Anshin Pharmaceutical. Is this what you want to talk about, Mr. Yi? Xiao Tong asked, puzzled. What else? Yi Ning frowned slightly. He didn't know what Xiao Tong meant. Ha! Xiao Tong let out a sigh of relief, but when she thought about the problems facing the company, she felt very uncomfortable. It's no secret in the industry, and if you want to hear about it, I'll tell you. After that, Xiao Tong said, Yi Ning just listened on the side and got a general idea of the whole thing. It turned out that the former chairman of Anshin Pharmaceutical had a sudden death in a car accident. The current chairman is the only daughter of the former chairman, Annie. However, Annie is very young, and many shareholders within the company do not accept her. In particular, the second largest shareholder, Lu Jiandong, who holds a large portion of Anshin Pharmaceutical shares, has coveted the position of chairman for a long time. He has united a group of minority shareholders to suppress Annie's position in the company, and Annie is facing a very difficult situation. Now Anshin Pharmaceutical's performance is gradually declining, and more shareholders are beginning to side with Lu Jiandong. In particular, not long ago, Kangda Hospital expressed its desire to dissolve its cooperative relationship with Anshin Pharmaceutical. This has made Anne's situation even more difficult. Xiao Tong came here to re-establish a cooperative relationship with Kangda Hospital and help Anne tide over the difficulties. Have Kangda and Anshin always cooperated with each other? Yi Ning asked, her mouth wrapped around shrimp meat. Xiao Tong nodded, yes, it has been a cooperative relationship with the old chairman for more than 10 years. Then why was it suddenly terminated? Was there a quality problem? No. Xiao Tong stammered, denying it and not saying anything after that. Yi Ning suddenly understood. This was also a means for that Lu Jiandong to undermine Annie's position, right? It seems that Xiao Tong's previous statement that Lu Hong had taken bribes privately was not unfounded. Although Xiao Tong did not know why Yi Ning was interested in Anshin Pharmaceutical, she could not care less. Right now, she just wanted to know if the cooperation between the two companies could be re-established. As long as Yi Ning gave the go-ahead, it didn't matter who got in the way. President Yi, actually. Chapter 41 First Kiss. Yi Ning is not only the person in control of Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital, but also a shareholder of Anshin Pharmaceutical. So without Xiao Tong mentioning it, he would also let the two parties continue to cooperate. Xiao Tong didn't expect Yi Ning to agree so readily, without hesitation at all. Instead, without thinking too much, the cooperation with Kangda Hospital was finally preserved. Although it cannot completely solve the problem that Chairman Annie is currently facing, it can at least alleviate a large part of the pressure. In fact, Yi Ning was just thinking of keeping the profits within the company. Since it was all about making money, it was better to give it to his own people. Of course, nowadays he doesn't lack money. After dinner, the two went their separate ways. Yi Ning thought that he hadn't seen Su Wei for a long time, and since he was going to the real estate agency anyway, he might as well ask her to go with him. Facing Yi Ning's invitation, Su Wei readily agreed. Driving to Su Wei's building, Su Wei had already applied her exquisite makeup and had been waiting for a long time. What do you think? Do I look good? Su Wei was smiling happily, and Yi Ning saw stars twinkling in her eyes. There were two little dimples on her cheeks when she smiled, and she was just too sweet. You look good, I really like it. Yi Ning couldn't hold back any longer, and he directly embraced her in his arms. Smelling the fragrant breath on her body, Yi Ning felt that this life was worth living. Su Wei was taken aback by Yi Ning's sudden move. After a brief moment of tension, she felt Yi Ning's embrace was really warm, and gradually relaxed her body. Yi Ning, this is not good, is it? Holding Yi Ning in public like this, Su Wei still felt a little embarrassed, and her face turned red. Why? We're not together yet, this is something that boyfriends and girlfriends do. Su Wei's voice got smaller and smaller, but she still didn't let go of the arms holding Yi Ning. Typical of her to be all talk and no action. You want me to be your boyfriend? You're joking, right? Yi Ning pretended to be surprised. Suddenly, Su Wei's eyes were visibly red. Her mouth was puckered, as if she could hang a bucket of water from it. I'm going to cry, so please comfort me. Su Wei tilted her head and looked at Yi Ning, her face full of unhappiness. Of course, she didn't think Yi Ning didn't want her anymore. If Yining really gave up on someone, he would never mention that person's name again. Just like Yining's ex-girlfriend, Man, whom she had met in the shopping mall before. Since then, Su Weier had never seen Yining mention Man again, as if he had never known the person. With such a personality, would Yining not like her and still come? Looking for her? Yining laughed and rubbed Su Weier's little head. You called me mom in the video, so how could you still be my girlfriend? Humph. Nasty. Su Weier tilted her nose, looking disgusted, but the smile on the corners of her mouth could not be suppressed. She really is beautiful when she smiles. If Yining had to describe someone as pure, it would definitely be Su Weier. She gives the impression of being no different from your first love. Staring at Su Weier's bright red little mouth, Yining couldn't help but press his face directly against it. This man, how can he sneak up on me again? What a scoundrel! Although she thought this in her heart, Su Weier tilted her head upwards, slowly closed her eyes, hooked Yining's neck, and let Yining do whatever he wanted. After a long time, Yining reluctantly parted. Licking his lips, his expression was nostalgic, with a wicked smile on his face. Still smiling. It's still you. Su Weier glared at Yining viciously and didn't want to talk to him. Her large, full breasts rose and fell frequently, and she breathed heavily. You need to learn to breathe through your nose, otherwise you won't be able to kiss for long, Yining reminded her. Su Weier pouted, sourly saying, You think everyone is as skilled as you? Today is her first kiss. Yining, you big bully, got the better of the situation and are still acting like a smart aleck. Yining didn't know how to respond. He did have a lot to say in this area. But why did he feel a faint sense of pride? Seeing that Yining was not speaking, Su Weier became jealous. This big bad guy doesn't even know how to defend himself, and he looks quite pleased with himself. Although she felt a little uncomfortable, she would not get angry. She knew that Yining was so outstanding and must have many girls who liked him. If she got angry every time, she would have died of anger long ago. Right, what are we going to do later? Yining had only asked her out, and had not yet said where they were going today. As soon as she finished speaking, Su Weier saw Yining ask in surprise, Is that okay? Su Weier's expression froze for a moment, and she immediately understood what Yining meant. Blushing, she punched Yining directly in the face, You can go to hell. Sometimes, she really wanted to open Yining's head and take a look at what was inside. Just kidding, just kidding. Yining explained with a smile, I've got a house that I'm going to rent out and become a landlord. Su Weier was not surprised to hear that Yining had an extra property. That's great, I want to move somewhere else, so why don't you skip the real estate agency and just rent it to me? Su Weier clapped her hands. Yining knew that Su Weier had misunderstood what he meant. Then I'll give you one, and rent out the rest. Yining said nonchalantly. Su Weier's neighborhood was indeed a bit poor, and it would be nice to move somewhere else. Don't you only have one house? Do you have others? I'm talking about a house, which means a building, and they're all mine. Driving the car out of the community, while Su Weier's brain was down, Yining added, You can pick a set you like to live in, and give the rest to the real estate company. You can give it directly to the community property, and they can also help with the rental. Oh? That's good, I'll show you the house on the way. Yining turned the car around and drove towards the school district. Chapter 42 Emerald City. Jiangcheng University Town. It is home to Jiangcheng University, Jiangcheng Normal University and 7 or 8 other undergraduate colleges and universities. With so many students, the business is booming, and naturally the housing prices are not cheap. Yining owns Emerald City, which has the most expensive housing prices in the university town. The apartments have 2 units per floor, each one is about 400 square meters, and the price is nearly 10 million yuan. Sir, you need the owner's consent to enter Emerald City, we can help you contact them. Driving a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, the two were stopped by the community security guard at the entrance to Emerald City. Yining casually pulled out a property ownership certificate from the box. I am the owner. By the way, ask your property management to come over, I need to talk to him. The security guard had never seen a property ownership certificate placed in a cardboard box before, and with such a large box, it couldn't be all of it, could it? Does this person buy clothes as if they were buying clothes? This is not how you do wholesale. Today, he has seen a real rich person. He watched Yining enter the residential compound with a smile, and the residential compound security guard contacted the property manager at the first opportunity. The Emerald City Property Management received the call, and their first reaction was that the big shot who had bought an entire building had appeared. When they heard the news yesterday, everyone was stunned. He had long wanted to meet the man who had bought an entire building, and today he had actually come in person. Putting his suit back in order, the property manager hurried to Building 6 with a nervous heart. Yi Ning showed Su Weier around the renovations, and in the end, Su Weier chose a flat on the 22nd floor. The two walked out of the elevator, and a man in a suit was waiting at the door. "You must be Boss Yi, I'm Liao Pang, the property manager of Emerald City, it's a pleasure." Before Liao Pang could finish speaking, he heard Yi Ning exclaim in surprise, "Liao Pang. It's you? Ha! You're Yi Ning." When Yi Ning walked out of the elevator, he felt that the man looked familiar, like a classmate from university. But then he thought he was wrong. Even if Yi Ning was amazing, it was impossible for him to afford a building in such a short time, right? So when he found out that this person was his college classmate, his heart suddenly stirred with waves of emotion. You have to understand that their school was just an ordinary undergraduate school. 3 years after graduation, someone like him could earn about 10,000 yuan a month, and sometimes, if they did well, they could earn 20,000 to 30,000 yuan, which was considered doing very well. But even so, it was still unrealistic to want to buy a house in Emerald City. Even buying a house in Jiangchang would require a long-term plan. But Yi Ning, who was in the same class as him, was not only able to buy a house in Emerald City, but he also bought an entire building at once. This huge difference was a bit hard for Liao Pang to accept. And the woman next to Yi Ning should be his girlfriend, right? She is so beautiful, much prettier than those TV stars. "Yi Ning, are you the owner of this building 6? Liao Pang took a deep breath and asked with wide eyes. "Yes." Yi Ning nodded. Although he had already guessed it, getting Yi Ning's affirmation still made Liao Pang feel dizzy. You're also too exaggerated." Liao Pang himself didn't notice that his voice was shaking. He had never done this before, but now, in the face of Yi Ning, he actually felt a little constrained. It's not surprising. Just imagine, if someone you know is actually a super boss, how many people can remain calm? Oh, never mind. Yi Ning smiled faintly. By the way, I'm looking for a property manager, and I originally wanted to rent out the house. Since it's Liao Pang, that's even better. Yi Ning left the units from the 20th to 25th floors, and without hesitation, gave all the others to Liao Pang. Liao Pang was slightly moved. In college, he and Yi Ning could only be considered classmates in the same class, with almost no other interactions. Although Yi Ning would have rented out these units whether this property manager was him or not. But he still owed Yi Ning a debt of gratitude, that was beyond doubt. As Yi Ning and Su Weier walked out of the residential compound holding hands, Liao Pang couldn't help but envy them. This is what it means to be a winner in life. Immediately afterwards, Liao Pang took out his mobile phone and couldn't help but share the news in the class group. "Liao Pang, do you know who I just ran into? Li Wei, Dilraba? Guli Naza? Lu Quan, or maybe it was Marzaha? Liao Pang, what does any of that have to do with anything? It's one of our classmates, and he's even bought a house in Emerald City. Li Wei, holy shit? Could it be Jiang Xian? I always thought his family was quite wealthy. Lu Quan, maybe it's the class monitor. None of us have graduated for a few years yet, and without relying on our families, how many of us could afford to buy a house in Emerald City? So subconsciously, we all think it's those classmates who have better living conditions. Jiang Xian, don't spread rumors." Jiang Xian looked at his phone. He was also curious about who in the class could afford a house in Emerald City. Although he was not particularly wealthy, he was doing well in Jiangchang. His family had assets of tens of millions of yuan, but it was still whimsical to want to buy a house in Emerald City. "Jiang Shui, I'm still abroad, it's not me." Jiang Xian and classmate Jiang Shui successively denied it, and everyone was curious about it. Apart from these two people, who else has such financial strength? Li Wei, Liao Pang, stop fishing, just say it. Liao Pang stared at the screen and laughed. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a very handsome guy. Very handsome. When they saw this message, everyone knew who Liao Pang was talking about. There were still a few handsome guys in their class. But when it comes to being very handsome, it's only Yi Ning. That's a real schoolboy level face. Even when he was in college, even though everyone knew Yi Ning's family was average, there were still a lot of little fans crazy about him. Not to mention that he is rich now. Everyone looked at the message sent by Liao Pang with a blank face. They could never imagine that Yi Ning had surpassed them by a long shot. Jiang Shui, who was far away abroad, also felt incredible when she saw Liao Peng's message. At the beginning, she had a secret crush on Yi Ning as well, but it was because of Yi Ning's family conditions that she chose to give up. She didn't have that much time to wait for a man to grow up. She didn't expect that Yi Ning had really grown up now, so why not give it a try? But Liao Peng's next sentence poured a bucket of cold water over Jiang Shui. Liao Peng, and Yi Ning's girlfriend is really pretty. She's prettier than those celebrities. Jiang Shui, who was opening Yi Ning's chat box and preparing to send him a message, saw this message, slammed the screen shut, threw her phone on the bed, and her pupils burned with jealousy. Chapter 43 Xinxian's thoughts. After taking care of the house, Yi Ning drove and took Su Wire to eat street food in the university town. Neither of them noticed that a woman dressed up in a flowery way was staring at the two of them intentionally or unintentionally, and she would occasionally show an inexplicable smile. Xinxian had a date today. As she passed by the snack street, she suddenly saw a familiar black car. Ordinary people would not be able to tell the difference, but as Bai Yiluo's roommate, Xinxian had naturally studied the photos on the campus forum before. After comparing them again and again, she was finally sure that this car was the car of the rich second generation rumored to be Bai Yiluo's boyfriend. She originally thought that the owner of the car was there to see Bai Yiluo, but she never expected a woman to get out of the passenger seat. She was also a stunning beauty whose appearance was not inferior to Bai Yiluo's. And judging from the intimacy between the two, it was obvious that they were a couple. Xinxian was extremely excited by this discovery and quickly took a photo with her phone. She had dated many boyfriends, but there were not many real rich guys. From Yi Ning's appearance, Xinxian immediately knew that this was definitely a super rich young tycoon. And he was so handsome, wasn't he exactly the man of her dreams? Plus, she wasn't bad looking either, although she wasn't as pretty as Bai Yiluo, she was still a big beauty. She was sure that with a little effort, she could convince this handsome rich guy to fall for her. Thinking this, Xinxian directly took out her phone and dialed the number. Hello? Xinxian, have you arrived? I'll come pick you up in my Audi A4. A young man's voice came from the other end of the line. Xinxian heard the voice on the other end of the line and a flash of disdain crossed her face. A broken down Audi, I don't know what's there to brag about. She had already forgotten that before she had told someone that they had to have at least a 300,000 yuan car to be worthy of going out with her. But now she saw Yi Ning's multi-million-dollar car, and her previous promise was directly negated. Zhou Juanhao, you don't need to come, let's break up. Xinxian's tone was flat, and she had experienced this countless times. Zhou Juanhao almost lost his grip on the steering wheel, pulled over to the side of the road, applied the brakes, and said, Xinxian, don't joke around. I never joke around. How could a broken car worth a few 100,000 yuan possibly be worthy of me? Zhou Juanhao, just forget about it. Xinxian snapped at the phone, then hung up. Looking at Yi Ning, who had opened the car door for Su Wei not far away, she was very excited. Bai Yiluo, didn't you think that your man was eating from the bowl and looking at the pot? In that case, then I have a chance too. Xinxian didn't expect to become Yi Ning's marriage partner. As long as Yi Ning paid, she was willing to be his lover. She didn't believe that, with her beauty, there would be any man who could resist the temptation. The next day, Yi Ning had not yet woken up when he received a phone call from Wu Yuan and Sun Tao. These two men were the general managers of the Jiangnan Hotel and Jiangnan Building respectively. Their business pointed to one thing. It was a charity auction being held tonight at the Jiangnan Hotel. It was organized by the Jiangcheng Red Cross. At auctions like this, there would usually be many representatives from Jiangcheng Enterprises. Yi Ning, having nothing to do, also decided to go. As for the female companion, naturally it fell to Su Wei. The moon was bright and the stars were few. Su Wei drove a Porsche 911 and took Yi Ning to the Jiangnan Hotel. Today, Su Wei was wearing a purple evening dress and high heels, looking very tall. Yi Ning was wearing a new Armani suit, and standing next to Su Wei, they looked like a perfect couple. Hello, boss, here is the invitation for you. The auction is on the 9th floor. Yi Ning had just walked to the door when the receptionist came up to him with a professional smile. When she saw Su Wei, her eyes lit up. No wonder the boss is so handsome, his companion is so pretty. It seems that the boss is not what people say, that he specializes in young wives. Thank you. Yi Ning took the invitation and took Su Wei's hand, walking towards the elevator. Hey, buddy, are you here for the auction too? Entering the elevator, a man in his 20s, wearing glasses, looked at Yining. The man was handsome, but his hairstyle was a bit flashy. He was dressed in designer clothes, and it looked like he wasn't short of money. Yining smiled. Yes, he had inadvertently received an invitation. Hanyu also looked like he was at home, and he extended his hand and said, "My name is Hanyu, I'm here on behalf of my father." Yining. Yining and Hanyu shook hands lightly, and then continued, "This is my girlfriend, Su Weier." Hanyu had felt that Su Weier looked familiar just now, and when he heard Yining's introduction, he suddenly remembered. He exclaimed in the elevator, "Could it be the Weier from the flying fish platform?" Su Weier couldn't believe that Hanyu had recognized her, so she smiled and admitted, "It's me." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Han." Su Weier's admission made the second-generation rich boy a little nervous. He didn't have many hobbies, and his favorite things were speeding, clubbing, and looking at beautiful women. Since Su Weier had become popular in the live streaming world, there were really a lot of people who watched her stream every day. Hanyu had watched a few times too, and he always thought that Su Weier was quite pretty. But he has never taken any practical action. After all, today's beauty technology is too terrifying. Who knows what kind of monster is on the other side of the screen? Now that he has seen Su Weier in person, he knows that he was wrong. Not only is she not a monster, she is also a stunning beauty. Even with Hanyu's experience, he has never seen a few people who can rival Su Weier. Hanyu patted Yining's shoulder with envy. "Buddy, you're really amazing, you've hooked up with such a beautiful woman." "That's right." Yining looked pleased, but then his face changed slightly. Squeezing pain came from his waist, which Yining could barely bear. Chapter 44 Lu Tianxiang. Yining's arrival did not attract much attention. It was Su Weier next to him who made many people there turn their heads. She was so beautiful. With her here tonight, all the other women paled in comparison. Some of those who usually paid attention to the internet also recognized Su Weier's identity. However, very few people came up to greet her. "Didn't you see Su Weier holding hands with a handsome guy? Whoever can come here must come from a wealthy family. Naturally, they won't start trouble. Yi, what's your number?" In the space of a few words, Yining had gone from being a friend to an old friend in Hanyu's eyes. Number 7. It was Hanyu's question that made Yining notice that there was a number on the invitation. He had thought that everyone was just sitting down wherever they liked. Number 7. Hanyu couldn't believe it and took the invitation from Yining's hand to have a closer look. It really is number 7. Hanyu had thought that Yining was just a rich second generation who had come here to see the world like him. It seems that he has other identities as well. You have to know that the top 10 numbers for the auction are not so easy to get. Hanyu's family is the leading company in the building materials industry in Zhengcheng. The market value of the company is 5 billion. But the invitation his father got was only number 25. It seems that Yining's identity is even more terrifying than he imagined. Su Weier took Yining's arm and the two of them came to the front row and sat down. Yining's arrival aroused the curiosity of many people in the hall. Those who could sit in the front row were either senior management of the Red Cross or representatives of Zhengcheng's 10 billion enterprises. Could it be that Yining was the heir of some unknown tycoon of a 10 billion enterprise? "Mr. Yi, I didn't expect you to be here too." Upon hearing the voice, Yining turned around and saw Xiao Tong, whom he had met not long ago. Today, Xiao Tong was wearing a bright-colored dress, and the tight skirt showed off her figure to the fullest. In particular, the two plump mounds in front of her chest were magnificent. "Director Xiao, hello, did you also receive an invitation?" Yining asked with a smile. Seeing Su Weier next to Yining, Xiao Tong understood. No wonder when he saw Yining that day, although he also showed a trace of desire, in the end he didn't make any demands. It turned out to be because Yining had such a woman next to him, a woman of peerless beauty. After working for so many years, she has only met 2 women of this caliber. One is the one next to Yining, and the other is the current chairman of Anshin Pharmaceutical, Annie. Of course not. Xiao Tong shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I naturally don't have the qualifications for this, it was chairman An who sent me." "Annie?" Yining nodded. "That's not surprising. Although Anshin Pharmaceutical is currently facing a difficult situation, as the leading pharmaceutical company in Zhengcheng, Annie's prestige is naturally not small, and it makes sense that she received the invitation." Just then, an ill-timed voice came from beside Xiao Tong. "Director Xiao, do you know this beauty? Won't you introduce me?" Next to Xiao Tong, a short man wearing a designer suit was staring at Su Wire with a dazed look in his eyes. Lu Tianxian felt like he was having pretty good luck today. Originally, his father had told him to come to the charity auction, but he didn't want to come. Now that he had finally come, he had actually run into such a beautiful woman as Su Wire. He originally thought that only Annie could make his heart flutter, but it turns out that there are also beautiful women on the same level as Annie. Now Annie and his father are still in a tug-of-war, and there is still some distance before he can get Annie. Let's use this woman to fill the loneliness in my heart. As for Yining, he has long since ignored her. In the Jiangqing circle, he has never seen anyone like Yining before, at most a pretty little gigolo. The moment Lu Tianxian opened his mouth, Xiao Tong's heart secretly said no good. How could she have forgotten that there was also this rich second generation who would fall for the first pretty face he saw? Lu Tianxian's reputation in the circles was not good at all. He was the kind of scumbag who would fall for every pretty face he saw and specifically look for those innocent and ignorant young girls, only to abandon them after he got them. Hello, beautiful, I'm Lu Tianxian from Anshin Pharmaceutical, and my father is the general manager of Anshin Pharmaceutical. Seeing that Xiao Tong was not speaking, Lu Tianxian eagerly introduced himself to Su Wire. He believed that once he revealed his identity, Su Wire, however cold she was, would surely throw herself into his arms. But Su Wire did not respond to Lu Tianxian's advances, and she didn't even look at him, leaning her head directly on Yining's shoulder. Yining also took hold of Su Wire's weak shoulders. Ha ha! Lu Tianxian didn't expect his plan to fall through, and when he saw the intimate interaction between Su Wire and Yining, he was even more enraged. How can a woman of this class lie in someone else's arms? Now he already regarded Su Wire as his woman, and how could Lu Tianxian bear it when his woman was lying in someone else's arms? Miss, did you not hear what I said? I am. Lu Tianxian was about to say something else when Yining turned his head directly and looked at him with a slightly cold expression. Don't you know you're being noisy? Since no one is paying attention to you, just shut up, okay? Who do you think you are? How dare you tell me what to do? Lu Tianxian slammed his hand on the armrest and stood up abruptly. He was already looking for a reason to teach Yining a lesson, but he never expected this person to be so stupid as to come right to him. Yining looked at him mockingly. Do you believe that I am the kind of person who can tell you to get out of here? If it weren't for Xiao Tong, he really wanted to tell this second-generation brat to get out of here. Xiao Tong anxiously pulled Lu Tianxian. Lu Xiao, please sit down first, this is Mr. Yining, the owner of Kanga Hospital, so please don't cause trouble. Then, she looked at Yining again, apologetic, Mr. Yi, I'm sorry, it was our fault today, I apologize to you on behalf of Lu Xiao. Feeling Su Wire pull his sleeve, Yining's stern expression gradually eased. He decided to give Xiao Tong face, after all, she was his employee. However, Yining thought this way, but someone else did not. Lu Tianxian pointed at Yining's nose and angrily said, Fine, you are the owner of Kangda Hospital, so it seems that you agreed to cooperate. I was just looking for you to take revenge. As soon as Lu Tianxian finished speaking, he heard a loud slap. A bright red palm print landed on his face. Chapter 45, Critical Strike Koenigsegg 1-1. How dare you hit me? Lu Tianxian glared at Yining, covering his red and swollen cheeks in disbelief. Growing up, who would dare to hit him? Not to mention in front of so many people, who would dare to provoke him, the son of Lu Jiandong. Everyone at the scene turned their attention to Yining, with an inexplicable look on their faces. But none of them came forward to dissuade him. It was none of their business, and they were keeping their distance. The auction had not even started yet, and already they had witnessed a major drama. On one side was the son of Anshin Pharmaceuticals Lu Jiandong, and on the other was the mysterious new owner of Kanga Hospital, neither of whom were good guys. Even Hanyu, who was sitting relatively far away, turned his gaze in their direction. Yes. Yining nodded coldly. I slapped you, so what? Don't you like it? If you don't want to drink the toast, you'll have to take the punishment. You have to be beaten up before you feel comfortable, right? Originally, Yining didn't even want to bother with Lu Tianxian, but he had gone too far. Lu Tianxian didn't expect Yining to be so strong and not be afraid of him at all. Now he has been slapped in public and lost face. If he doesn't get it back, how can Lu Tianxian still get anywhere? You son of a bitch. In a rage, Lu Tianxian directly punched Yining in the head. Yining reacted quickly, grabbed Lu Tianxian's wrist, and slapped him back. In the hall, the sound of a crisp slap echoed. Yining also applied pressure to the palm of his wrist, and several clear fingerprints appeared on Lu Tianxian's wrist in an instant. It hurts, let go. Lu Tianxiang grimaced in pain. Yi Ning gave a hard shake, and Lu Tianxiang lost his balance and stumbled back to his seat. Remember, this is the last time. Don't be so cheeky. Yi Ning's face was stern and her words were cold, and Lu Tianxiang felt his hair stand on end. He was now really a little afraid of Yi Ning. He thought Yi Ning's background was nothing, but he was just afraid. With his pride, Lu Tianxiang would not allow himself to fear a young man he had never even met. Yes, I give up. Lu Tianxiang pretended to agree, and after Yi Ning turned around, he quietly took out his phone. Yi Ning naturally knew that this person would not let it go easily, because just now, he clearly saw the murderous light in Lu Tianxiang's eyes. But he was unafraid. This Jiangnan hotel was his territory. As long as Lu Tianxiang dared to come, he would make him regret it. This farce temporarily came to an end with Lu Tianxiang's apology. No one expected that Lu Tianxiang, who was known as one of the top young masters in Jiangnan City, would actually apologize. Regardless of what happened next, the young man who made Lu Tianxiang submit had certainly stolen the show. Of course, many people were shaking their heads in private. They knew that Lu Tianxiang was not someone who would easily submit, and this young man was in for a hard time. It was not until a beautiful middle-aged woman in a cheongsam appeared on the stage in the hall that people's attention shifted away from Yi Ning and the others. The middle-aged woman wore a smile and spoke gently. Good evening, everyone. I am Wen Yao, the host of this charity auction. After some introductions, the auction officially began. Please welcome our first lot, the Tiffany Millennium Necklace, starting at 500,000 yuan. It was clear that none of the people present were short of money. Although the final price came to 2.3 million yuan, far exceeding the original value of the necklace, someone still bought it. Yi Ning was uninterested in these things, and after watching for a long time, he still had no intention of bidding. Lu Tianxiang saw this and sneered to himself, sure enough, he is a poor guy with no money. He is good looking but useless, and he can't even spare a few million to buy a beautiful woman like her. He is nothing but a pretty face. Yi Ning's face only revealed a smile when the hostess took out a hairpin from the backstage. He glanced at Su Wire's green hair and the corner of his mouth slightly raised. This is a good thing. Wen Yao pointed at the hairpin in the hostess's hand and loudly introduced it. This is an ice lotus and jade hairpin carved by Master Lu Qianqing himself. Both the craftsmanship and the jade quality are superb. The starting price is 2 million, and the bid must not be less than 100,000 each time. As Wen Yao introduced it, there was a burst of gasps from the audience. It was actually the handiwork of Master Lu Qianqing, and just this name alone was worth more than 2 million. It really is a good thing. I didn't expect there to be such a treasure. I don't like treasures, but I do like charity. 3 million. It's my wife's birthday, so don't fight me for it. 3.5 million. After a short discussion, everyone started bidding. Soon, the price of the ice lotus and jade hairpin reached 8 million. 20 million. Yi Ning raised his hand and made the first bid. 20 million. Everyone, including Su Wire, looked at Yi Ning in disbelief. The price of this hairpin is almost 8 or 9 million, but Yi Ning directly offered 20 million. Yi Ning smiled and said, "What are you all looking at me for? It's for charity, just consider it a good deed." This hairpin suits Su Wire very well, and Yi Ning had already decided to bid for it. It's also quite good to donate the extra money. Besides, he still has the system, and the money spent can be returned, so he doesn't care about that at all. Lu Tianxiang was also a little surprised to hear Yi Ning's offer. Wasn't he just a rich playboy? Why could he come up with so much money at once? Even the owner of Kanda Hospital couldn't come up with that kind of cash flow, could he? Even he, Zhangcheng's top second generation, only had a few million in pocket money every month. What right did Yi Ning have to be richer than him? Owner Yi of Seat 7 is offering 20 million. Does anyone have a higher bid? 20 million once. 20 million twice. 20 million 3 times. Sold. Congratulations to Yi from the 7th house for winning the bid for Master Lu's Ice Lotus and Nephrite hairpin for 20 million. Before the auction ended, Yi Ning directly paid for the transaction. Ding! Congratulations to the host for spending 20 million on Su Wire and getting a critical strike, and being rewarded with a Koenigsegg 1-1. Koenigsegg? Although Yi Ning's requirements for cars were not very high, the appearance of a sports car that cost over 100 million and was limited to only 6 units worldwide still made him a little excited. This was the Koenigsegg 1-1, something that you couldn't necessarily buy even if you had the money. Soon, Yining came to Su Weier's side, gently grabbed her hair and personally inserted the hairpin for her. Su Weier was extremely surprised. Although she initially felt that the hairpin was bought for her, she was still moved when Yining gave it to her. Yining, this is too precious, 20 million. Su Weier stuck out her tongue. Yining shook his head, unconcerned. Compared to the place you hold in my heart, 20 million is not that important. Yining's words made Su Weier's heart flutter, and she took hold of Yining's arm even tighter. Soon, the auction ended and everyone left the venue. Lu Tianxiang gave Yining a wry smile before heading downstairs. Chapter 46 A Kick. Yi, that brat might do something to you. Han Yu came up to Yining and whispered a reminder. Just now, he also saw Lu Tianxiang's expression, and the hurry was clearly a sign of something being planned. Although his family fortune is not comparable to Lu Tianxiang's, the businesses of the two families do not intersect, and Han Yu is not afraid of him. What's more, the real person in control of Anqin Pharmaceutical is Annie, not the Lu family yet. It's no big deal. Yining spoke lightly, not even frowning. At the moment, he is at least on the same level as Lu Tianxiang's father. A mere second-generation person is not worth mentioning. Seeing Yining's composed manner, without the slightest hint of panic, Han Yu let his guard down. It seems Yining has a way to deal with Lu Tianxiang. That's right, how could a big shot who got seat 7 at this auction not have some tricks up his sleeve? Yining and the others had just arrived in the lobby on the first floor when Wu Yuan came quickly over in a suit. Boss, Lu Jiandong's son has hired some people, and it looks like they want to do something to you. Wu Yuan spoke in a relaxed tone, smiling, as if they were just chatting about everyday matters. Only Han Yu looked at Yining with a surprised expression. This Jiangnan hotel is also yours? How could Han Yu not know Wu Yuan, the general manager of the Jiangnan hotel? But such a person also bowed to Yining and called Yining boss. Before Yining could nod, Wu Yuan stepped forward and said, Mr. Yi is not only the boss of the Jiangnan hotel, but also the sole owner of the entire Jiangnan commercial street. Hearing this, Han Yu truly understood how terrifying Yining's background was. In just a short while, he already knew that Jiangcheng Kanga Hospital, Jiangnan Commercial Street, Jiangnan Hotel, and Jiangnan Building were all Yining's properties. Together, they were already not inferior to his family's total assets. Is there anything else you haven't told me? Han Yu realized for the first time that Yining, a figure who had never appeared in the Jiangcheng second-generation circles, was likely a presence that most people in Jiangcheng could not afford to provoke. Brother Yi, you are really something. Han Yu sincerely exclaimed. Even he hadn't noticed how natural it was for him to call Yining by various names, from brother to Lei Oi to Yi Gu now. Ha, sorry to interrupt, Yining, if you don't want to suffer, come out yourself. At that moment, Lu Tianxiang leaned against the door with a carefree look on his face, looking at Yining with a teasing expression. Today, Yining had let him lose face, and even slapped him twice. He, Lu Tianxiang, must settle the score. And that beautiful woman next to Yining, he is going to take her back tonight and have his way with her. Thinking about this, Lu Tianxiang looked at Su Weier and said, Young lady, if you behave, I can make Yining suffer less later. He could tell that Su Weier truly admired Yining, so he was even more pleased thinking about what would happen later. As long as Su Weier knew what was good for her, he wasn't worried about Su Weier not complying. Unfortunately, Su Weier didn't even look at him, and just coldly spat out one word. Get out. Lu Tianxiang laughed in anger, clapping his hands. Good, then I'll let you know what regret is. Saying this, Lu Tianxiang said to Wu Yuan, who was next to Yining, Manager Wu, as you can see, it's not that I'm not giving you face, but someone is really being a pain in the ass. I won't make trouble in your place either, you just need to tell Yining to get out, I'll take care of it myself. Lu Tianxiang is not stupid, even though Wu Yuan is only the general manager of a small Jiangnan hotel. But the owner behind Jiangnan Commercial Street is not someone ordinary people can afford to offend. Can someone without a background operate a commercial street in the most prosperous area of Jiangcheng? So naturally, he would not be stupid enough to look for trouble in the Jiangnan hotel. By saying this, he is also indirectly giving Wu Yuan face. Oh? Yining looked at Wu Yuan next to him with a smile. Manager Wu, what do you think? Wu Yuan hastily wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. This Lu Tianxiang was asking for death himself, and yet he actually wanted to drag him down with him. Boss, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Wu Yuan bowed slightly towards Yining with his head bowed. This scene was unbelievable in Lu Tianxiang's eyes. Who is Wu Yuan? The general manager of Jiangnan Hotel. He even bowed to Yi Ning. Although he was standing far away and couldn't hear what Wu Yuan whispered to Yi Ning. His respectful appearance made it clear that Yi Ning was above Wu Yuan in status. How is this possible? While he was shocked, Wu Yuan looked at Lu Tianxiang indifferently and pointed at him, saying, "Everyone, control the sky for me. I want to see how he, Lu Jiandong, taught his own son to dare to attack our boss." Boss. Lu Tianxiang looked at Yi Ning in horror, and at that moment Yi Ning's gaze also rested on him. That mocking smile was so terrifying in Lu Tianxiang's eyes. How was this possible? The pretty boy he had decided in his heart was not only the owner of Kanda Hospital, but also the direct superior of Wu Yuan. How ironic was this? Lu Tianxiang was held back by several security guards. After struggling a few times, his face became fierce, and he roared, "Yi Ning, don't think that just because you're the owner of Jiangnan Hotel, you're something. I'm telling you, I'm not afraid of you." Yi Ning shook his head, walked up to Lu Tianxiang, and kicked him in the stomach with his raised leg. His gaze was like an ice blade. Whether he was afraid or not was another matter, but remember this, don't mess with me. As soon as these words came out, everyone present, including Wu Yuan, bristled with fear. It was hard to imagine that Yi Ning, who looked so young and handsome, could be so decisive. Everyone understood that Yi Ning was really not to be trifled with, and that if he was provoked, he would really fight. Manager Wu. Yi Ning turned his gaze to Wu Yuan. Wu Yuan took a deep breath and said, "Yes, boss. Treat Mr. Lu and the people outside well. As for the medical expenses, I can afford it." Yi Ning had already seen the few slovenly-looking punks outside, and it looked like they were the thugs that Lu Tianxiang had hired. "Don't worry, boss, I guarantee that the task will be completed." With that, Wu Yuan gave the security team leader a wink. After dealing with Lu Tianxiang and leaving the Jiangnan Hotel, Yi Ning unexpectedly received a phone call. Chapter 47 Lu Jiandong. "Hello, Mr. Yi, this is Lu Jiandong." A middle-aged man's dull voice came from the other end of the phone. "Ha, I have long admired Mr. Lu's reputation." Yi Ning laughed lightly twice. "The Lu family is quite well informed." In less than half an hour, Lu Jiandong even found out his contact information. Lu Jiandong paused for a moment and said in a solemn tone, "It is also a great honor for me, Lu Jiandong, to meet you, Mr. Yi. I wonder if there is a chance to invite Mr. Yi to have a casual meal together." Yi Ning's brows raised at Lu Jiandong's words. If Lu Jiandong was doing this because of his son today, then there was no need to meet at all. As long as the other party apologized properly, he, Yi Ning, was not the type of person who would not let go of an advantage. But if Lu Jiandong was making such a formal invitation, was there another purpose? Immediately, Yi Ning understood. It seemed that Lu Jiandong had found out that he owned shares in Anshin Pharmaceutical. Upon thinking of this, Yi Ning's expression flickered. "President Lu, there's no need to host a banquet. To be honest, as long as you keep your son in check, I don't care how Anshin Pharmaceutical develops." In fact, Yi Ning really didn't care who would be in control of Anshin Pharmaceutical in the future. Whether it was Lu Jiandong or Annie, it had nothing to do with him. As long as Anshin Pharmaceutical didn't go bankrupt, his 15% stake would generate income for him. Yi Ning's words were like a reassurance, making Lu Jiandong feel much more at ease. Today, when he learned that the person his son had offended was Yi Ning, who owned 15% of Anshin Pharmaceutical, he almost fainted with anger. He wanted to rush directly to the Jiangnan Hotel and drag Lu Tianxiang away for a beating. Fortunately, Yi Ning had no interest in company management, otherwise all the efforts he had made to get the position of chairman would have been for naught. Mr. Yi is worthy of being a big boss at a young age, and I, Lu Jiandong, admire him. Lu Jiandong felt slightly relieved. The two exchanged pleasantries and hung up. Sitting in the passenger seat, Yi Ning looked inexplicable. Today's encounter made him realize that Lu Jiandong was definitely a deep-minded person. During the phone call, he never mentioned his son Lu Tianxiang, as if the person did not exist. But precisely because of this, Lu Jiandong is terrifying. Such a person is a ruthless person who can sacrifice everything for the sake of profit. Back at the villa, Yi Ning helped Su Wire pack up a guest room and sleep separately. The next day, Yi Ning slept until noon. While having lunch with Su Wire, he received a call from the manager of Koenigsegg. As the property manager of Yunshan Longjing Villa, Luo Rongrong, as usual, patrolled the perimeter of the community. Suddenly, the rumble of an engine came. Looking up, a sleek, jet-black supercar appeared at the gate of the community. Luo Rongrong's eyes widened in disbelief. It was Koenigsegg. It's the Koenigsegg 11, a limited edition of only 6 cars in the world, worth 1.5 million yuan. Such a superb supercar would actually appear in Jiangcheng, a second-tier city. Even in the Magic City, a city with a population of over 20 million, there is none. What's more, this car is now parked right in front of her, at the entrance to the Yunshan Longjing Villa community. Who on earth is it? Who in their community has the ability to actually afford this car? Luo Rongrong stared at the door, not blinking an eye, determined to meet this hidden super tycoon. Yining, who had received the call, put down the chopsticks in his hand and looked surprised. Which man doesn't like sports cars? Although with his current wealth, he could easily afford to buy a sports car worth tens of millions of yuan. But he decided not to think about it, as Yining, who already had a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, was already very satisfied with his current life. However, when the Koenigsegg 1:1 was delivered to the door, he still couldn't hide his joy. "Why are you so happy?" Su Weier asked. "Let's go, I'll show you your husband's new car." Yining ignored the dishes on the table and pulled Su Weier towards the entrance of the community. After 7 or 8 minutes, Yining and Su Weier arrived at the entrance of the community hand in hand. "Mr. Yi, I mean Shihao, the Asia regional manager of Koenigsegg, I'm very pleased to meet you." Yin Shihao was dressed in a suit and looked very refined with his glasses. He knew that Yining was very young, but when he saw him in person, he was still shocked by Yining's age. This is the super tycoon who bought the Koenigsegg 11. In his 20s, his net worth must be at least tens of billions of dollars, right? And the beautiful woman next to Yining is the most beautiful woman he has seen in all his years of work. Only someone like Yining, young, rich, and handsome, is worthy of her. Seeing Yining and Yin Shihao chatting, Luo Rongrong, who was standing in the corner, looked despondent. Just now, when she saw Yining arrive at the door, her whole heart almost jumped out of her throat. She was now certain that Yining was definitely one of the wealthiest tycoons in the entire Yunshan Longjing. If anyone was not convinced, then they could bring out a car of the same class as the Koenigsegg 11 to compare. She wanted to go up and say hello, but when she saw Su Weier, who was smiling and full of happiness, next to Yining, she knew why Yining had never treated her with false politeness. That woman was just too beautiful, and even Luo Rongrong, who was very confident in her appearance, had to admit it. In front of Su Weier, she was not just a little inferior. Only a woman of this caliber was worthy of Yining. Thinking about this, Luo Rongrong took a deep breath, adjusted her mindset, and left quietly. Chapter 48 Honying Bar. Yining, this car is very expensive, right? Driving the Koenigsegg 11, Yining took Su Weier for a spin around the artificial lake, attracting countless envious glances. At least half a small target. But it was these people who, upon seeing Yining's ride, couldn't help but let out an exclamation. This is the charm of a supercar worth over 100 million. Ha ha ha, a small target, it's okay. Upon hearing Yining's words, Su Weier's body twitched, and she stuck out her little tongue. A car worth hundreds of millions is okay? When she saw this sports car, she knew it was definitely not cheap. But Su Weier guessed that the price would be a few million more expensive than her Porsche 911. She never expected it to be priced at over 100 million yuan. She knew that Yining was not only a shareholder of Feiyu Platform, but also the owner of Jiangnan Commercial Street and Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital. But even so, buying a sports car that costs over 100 million yuan is a bit too extravagant, isn't it? Every time she thought she understood Yining's worth, she soon learned that it was only the tip of the iceberg. This is just too magical. In the afternoon, after Su Weier returned home, Yining also received a pair of jade payu sent by Lu Jiandong's people. Yining smiled softly, as expected. These payu are not cheap at a glance, and Lu Jiandong is really willing to spend a lot for this position of chairman. A week later, Hanyu, the second-generation rich man Yining met at the auction, invited Yining to go to a bar to play, saying that he would introduce Yining to a few friends in the circle. Growing up, apart from the time he got drunk, he really hasn't had much fun. Especially the kind of bar with flashing lights and countless people dancing to rock music, he was really a bit curious. Seeing that Su Weier was broadcasting live, Yining didn't bother her and drove the Koenigsegg 11 out the door. Rumble. The roar of the engine accompanied by the cool evening breeze made Yining can't help but exclaim. It's really good to be rich. Red Cherry Bar. The most famous bar in Jiangcheng. Every night, countless young ladies with curvaceous figures and charming looks flock here. This bar is also the favorite place for rich young masters like Hanyu in Jiangcheng. In particular, those young masters who drive supercars are the first choice of the young ladies. Hanyu, is that Yi Ning you mentioned really that awesome? Next to the white McLaren, a young man with yellow hair looked at Hanyu with suspicion as he held a Huazi cigarette in his mouth. The beating of Lu Tianxiang had already spread in their circles. But Hanyu also said that the person named Yi Ning was actually the owner of Jiangnan Commercial Street, which was unbelievable. How could I be joking? At the time, I was standing next to Wu Yuan, the manager of the Jiangnan Hotel. He personally called Yi Ge the boss, so how could it be wrong? Hanyu explained with a smile, when it comes to Yi Ning, he can't help but feel respect. No wonder, his family is rich. But all that money belongs to his father, and although he has taken over some of the family business, he is still financially controlled by others. But Yi Ning is different. From Wu Yuan's tone, you can hear that he not only respects Yi Ning, but also fears him. This shows that Yi Ning is his direct superior, and that with just a word from Yi Ning, he can decide whether to stay or go. Therefore, Yi Ning's wealth is naturally also in his own hands, as can be seen from the fact that he spent 20 million yuan on a hairpin for his girlfriend. Inviting Yi Ning today was also something that Hanyu had planned from the beginning. Either there was some kind of cooperation to discuss with Yi Ning, or he just wanted to get to know Yi Ning better. It can be said that Yi Ning is already not in the same league as the second generation who rely on their parents. Following Yi Ning will definitely lead to great gains. Rumble. The sound of the engine came, and not only Hanyu and a few others, but also the gazes of countless handsome men and beautiful women around the bar were attracted. Koenigsegg. Huang Mao widened his eyes, excitedly patting Hanyu on the shoulder, not even noticing that the cigarette butt in his mouth had fallen to the ground. It was actually a Koenigsegg, and it was still the one. What he saw in the video the other day was actually real. Someone in Jiangcheng can actually afford a Koenigsegg 11. Hanyu had also seen a video online before, saying that there was a Koenigsegg 11 in Jiangcheng. At the time, he had a look of disdain on his face and simply didn't believe it. Only when they reach their current level do they realize how difficult it is to buy such limited edition supercars, limited edition sports cars that cost hundreds of millions. Not to mention Jiangcheng, even the super tycoons in the Magic City would find it unlikely to buy one. How can someone in this small Jiangcheng afford it? This is too fake. But now, the car is clearly in front of them, even leaning slowly against the curb. Some people who don't know the Koenigsegg 11 are still confused, wondering why these people are so excited to see this car. It's just a sports car, there are plenty of them here. But everyone who recognizes it can't hide the envy and excitement in their eyes. None of them are jealous, because only when there is a small gap between two people will they be jealous. When one person is already leading you by a countless amount, there is no jealousy. Obviously, the owner of the Koenigsegg 11 now has a gap that is like heaven and earth apart from them, and they are not qualified to be jealous at all. In Hanyu's state of shock, Yi Ning parked the car, opened the door, and walked towards Hanyu and the others with a smile on his face. Hanyu, he's coming over, the owner of the Koenigsegg 11 is actually walking towards us. Huang Mao shook the shoulders of Hanyu, who was already in a daze, his expression as excited as a fan meeting a celebrity. When Yi Ning came to a stop in front of Hanyu, the mouths of the several people quivered, and they didn't dare to breathe. Han Xiao, won't you introduce these friends to me? Yi Ning waved his hand in front of Hanyu's eyes and said with a smile. At this time, Hanyu's friends suddenly looked at him, their expressions horrified, their lips trembling. Hanyu, is this the Yi brother you were talking about? Chapter 49 Yi Xiao Xiao. Hanyu woke up from his daze, but the shock on his face did not diminish. Phew, a long sigh, Yi Ge, you're really scary. If Hanyu was previously impressed by Yi Ning's identity, he was now truly shocked. In his eyes, Yi Ning had become incredibly tall and mysterious. The energy behind someone who can buy a Koenigsegg 11 is far beyond the comparison of the few second-generation Jiangchengers. Even the top second generation in the Magic City or even the Imperial City are at most on a par with Yi Ning. He dared not imagine Yi Ning's true identity. If there was any intention to probe before, this idea has now vanished completely. Yi Ge, let me introduce you. Yi Ning waved his hand to interrupt Hanyu's words, indifferent, we don't need to use honorifics between us, it's better to be like before. Hanyu's attitude made Yi Ning feel a little uncomfortable. They were basically the same age, and they were on the same level, so it was nice to be friends. Yi Ning's words made Hanyu and the other second-generation members instantly like him a lot more. You have to understand that, not to mention buying a Koenigsegg 11, even buying a sports car that costs tens of millions of yuan, many people are too arrogant. They look down on everyone. But Yi Ning is an exception. Okay, brother Yi. Han Yu's taut nerves eased slightly, and he smiled and said, "This yellow-haired guy is Zhou Chen, from a family that deals in clothing. The show-off in the suit is Liao Shen, and his family owns Lai Jingshuan. This is AI Yang, from the furniture business. Brother Yi, you can just call him Glasses." After exchanging greetings, Yi Ning followed the others into the Hanying bar. As soon as they arrived in the lobby, a little fat man in a suit ran over with a smile, rubbing his hands together in a fawning manner. "Han Xiao, you haven't been here in a long time." Then, he looked at Zhou Chen and the others and greeted them one by one. "It seems that Han Yu and the others are regulars here. Xiao Wang, let me introduce you, this is Yi Ning." "Brother Yi, you can't ignore him," Han Yu said, putting his arm around the little fat man's shoulder. Wang Quan's heart jumped. Yi Ning followed Han Yu and the others, walking in the last row. He thought Yi Ning was just a little follower. "I never thought that someone like Han Yu, who even the young masters have to call brother, could be an ordinary person. Brother Yi, I apologize for the slight earlier." Wang Quan bowed and apologized. Yi Ning shook his head with a smile, completely unconcerned. Then, Wang Quan led the several people to booth number 1, the largest booth in the entire Honyang bar, and also the most expensive. "Young Master Han, is today the same as usual?" Wang Quan leaned in and asked. "Brother Yi?" Han Yu looked at Yi Ning for advice. Yi Ning just shook his head. "I don't understand this, you just do as you see fit." "Okay." Han Yu nodded and followed the usual rules. In a short while, Wang Quan led 4 beauties dressed in revealing clothes to the booth. Another waiter filled the table with drinks. 3 of the beauties were clearly the escorts that Han Yu and his friends often ordered, so they sat down on their own and chatted away. Finally, a young woman came and sat down next to Yi Ning. She kept her head down and looked a little shy, probably because she hadn't been working there long. "What's your name?" Yi Ning lifted her glass and took a small sip. "Brother Yi, just call me Ying. Ying said with a little embarrassment. Manager Wang Quan had just introduced Yi Ning to her and repeatedly reminded her to treat Yi Ning well. Yi Ning nodded and smiled, saying, "You don't need to be embarrassed. I'm here to experience it too." Seeing that Han Yu and the others were already hitting it off with the pretty girl, and even Liao Shen, who was wearing a suit, had already started to get his hands on her, Yi Ning was also a bit speechless. Sure enough, he was a flirt. This pretty girl called Ying was quite good looking, but compared to Su Wire, she was still quite a bit inferior, and Yi Ning wasn't very interested. Therefore, the two of them just had a drink or two. There was no physical contact, just simple chatting. Ying also relaxed a bit, and often talked to Yi Ning about some interesting things in life. After 2 bottles of wine, Yi Ning said goodbye to Han Yu and the others and went to the bathroom. While washing his hands, a familiar figure flashed past in the mirror. Yi Ning turned around abruptly and saw a woman dressed like a student and with a pretty face running down the corridor. She looked panicked and extremely anxious. Behind her, a man with a vicious look on his face and tattoos on his arm reached out his hand to grab the woman by the hair. Yi Ning's face changed, and she quickly lifted her leg and kicked the tattooed man in the stomach. Bang! The tattooed man fell to the ground in response, and the huge impact made him feel a burning pain in his stomach. Yi Ning didn't care about the tattooed man and directly grabbed the woman's wrist, half embracing her delicate body. Frowning, she asked in a slightly cold tone, "Xiao Xiao, what's going on? Why are you in this kind of place?" The woman in her arms was Yi Ning's cousin, Yi Xiaoxiao. Yi Xiaoxiao is studying at Jiangcheng Medical University, which is not as good as the top universities, but it is also a good university. At least if she studies hard, she will have no problem entering an ordinary hospital after graduation. Yi Xiaoxiao has been a very well-behaved and sensible child since she was young, so why would she appear in such a mixed place? Not to mention being chased by a small scoundrel who obviously looks like a scoundrel in society. If he wasn't just at the Honyang bar today, the consequences would be unimaginable. Thinking of this, Yi Ning's eyes became even colder. Chapter 50 The Powerful Yi Ning. Yi Xiaoxiao was suddenly pulled into the arms of a stranger. She was extremely scared and just wanted to scream when she heard Yi Ning's familiar voice. Suddenly, a great sense of grievance filled her body. Her eyes were red and tears welled up in them like beans rolling down her cheeks. She threw her arms around Yi Ning's tall body and shouted, "Brother!" Yi Xiaoxiao's voice couldn't cause the slightest ripple in the noisy bar. But to Yi Ning, it was deafening and struck straight to the heart. He could clearly feel Yi Xiaoxiao's trembling body and deeply empathize with her fear and grievances. He didn't want to think about it, and didn't dare to think about it. If he hadn't come today, or hadn't run into Yi Xiao, what would have happened to her? Xiao, tell me, what really happened? Yi Ning wiped away her tears and told her gently, I'll help you get justice. Yi Xiao felt incredibly relieved at Yi Ning's words. But then it seemed like she remembered something, her face paled and she shook her head frantically. Brother, let's go quickly, we can't mess with those people. They are all relatives. Of course Yi Xiao knew Yi Ning's family background. Although Yi Ning had been working for a while and the two had become less connected. But Yi Xiao also knew that Yi Ning had only been in society for a few years, so how could he possibly compete with those people? Not to mention that just now, Yi Ning had even fought the tattooed man to save her. You want to leave? If I let you go today, wouldn't my kick be for nothing? The tattooed man covered his stomach, struggled to his feet, and looked at Yi Ning with a fierce expression. From their conversation, he already knew that Yi Ning was Yi Xiao's brother. But so what? Shi Xiao wants a woman, and no matter if it's just the brother or even Yi Xiao's real father, they have to give her to him obediently. Yi Ning sneered twice. I really hadn't thought about leaving. I said, I want to help Xiao get an explanation. Kid, do you know who I am behind you, and dare to ask me for an explanation? It can be seen that this Tianwu is just a thug, and there must be someone behind him backing him up. But no matter who it is, Yi Ning is not afraid. He has never thought about letting this matter go peacefully. Yi Ning waved at a waiter and whispered something in his ear. Then he turned to Tianwu and said, lead the way. Take me to see your boss. Tianwu looked incredulous. What did you say, kid? He had never imagined that Yi Ning would dare to ask him to lead the way to Qi Xiao. Did this guy want to die? Pa! Yi Ning slapped Tianwu directly in the face and said coldly, I told you to lead the way. Are you deaf? Tianwu covered his face and looked at Yi Ning angrily, but deep in his eyes, he felt a trace of fear for Yi Ning. He had thought that Yi Ning was just putting on an act, but now it seemed that no one was afraid of Qi Xiao behind him, let alone him, Tianwu. Ha! Seeing that Tianwu still dared to glare at him, Yi Ning raised his hand again. No, don't hit me. Tianwu was like a deflated balloon, completely losing the arrogance he had just now. I'll take you there, I'll take you there. In his opinion, Yi Ning was completely crazy, unreasonable, and would hit him if he didn't behave. Such a person, not to mention Qi Xiao, at least Tianwu couldn't afford to provoke. As Yi Ning embraced Yi Xiao and followed Tianwu to the box, Wang Quan anxiously arrived at booth number 1. He whispered something in Han Yu's ear. What? Han Yu pushed the woman in his arms away and instantly got up. Old Han, what's going on? Zhou Chen asked, seeing that Han Yu's face was not right. Yi Ge had a conflict with that kid Qi Yuan and is heading towards Qi Yuan's box now. Han Yu explained. Qi Yuan is so arrogant, he even dares to provoke Yi Ge. Let's go take a look together. Liao Xian and Ai Yang also stood up. At times like this, it is necessary to support the team. Qi Yuan and the others all knew that his family had opened several large hot spring resorts in Jiangcheng. With assets of more than 1 billion, they were considered a not insignificant second generation in Jiangcheng. But compared to their family conditions, the Qi family is obviously much worse off, not to mention Yi Ning, who owns a Koenigsegg 11. When they arrived at the door of the private room, Yi Xiao became even more afraid, and held onto Yi Ning's arm a little tighter. Just now, she had barely managed to run out of here. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Yi Ning said reassuringly. The gentle smile made Yi Xiao feel like she was basking in the spring breeze. It's really nice to have an older brother. Yi Xiao didn't see that after Yi Ning turned his head, his face became ferocious, his gaze like a knife, sharp and unstoppable. Crunch! The door opened, and the strong smell of smoke in the room made Yi Ning frown slightly. He didn't dislike smoke, but a private room filled with smoke like this still made him feel a little uncomfortable. Tianwu, where's the chick? In the center of the sofa, a man in a white suit looked at Tianwu at the door. In his arms, he was holding an exposed woman, and kept rubbing her hands. Qi Xiao, you brought her back, but... Tianwu was sweating and stammering. Qi Yuan licked his lips and laughed evilly. What do you mean? Get out. Without waiting for Tianwu to answer, Yi Ning kicked him away with one foot and stepped into the private room. He came in front of Qi Yuan, looked down at him, his expression slightly tense, and said, Is it you who bullied my Xiao? Chapter 51 How to apologize. Who are you? Facing Yi Ning, who was condescending, Qi Yuan was of course angry. But anger aside, he was not the idiot Tian Wu, so how could he not see that Yi Ning was wearing designer clothes? This person was obviously a rich man, he just didn't know which family's second generation he was. My name is Yi Ning. Yi Ning said calmly. Yi Ning? Qi Yuan frowned, as if he had heard this name somewhere, but he couldn't think of it for the moment. It doesn't matter, as long as he is not one of those top young masters, there is room for negotiation. Young Master Yi, Qi Yuan, am not an unreasonable person. Qi Yuan pushed the woman in his arms away. I paid for that chick, so if you want her, just pay 50,000 yuan and take her. A man like Qi Yuan certainly doesn't lack women. Yi Xiao is pretty, but it is obviously unwise to offend an unknown young master for the sake of a woman. 50,000? Buy her over? Ha 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 ha. Yi Ning's mouth curled in derision. Qi Yuan's expression was stern. Yi Xiao, what do you mean? In Qi Yuan's opinion, he had already given Yi Ning face. But it seemed Yi Ning wasn't buying it. Even if Yi Ning had some power, Qi Yuan, wasn't necessarily afraid. Qi Yuan, Qi Xiao, why don't you pull your mom over here, I'll give you 50,000, how's that? Yi Ning said nonchalantly. You want to die? Qi Yuan slammed his hand on the table and rose to his feet. How could he, Qi Yuan, tolerate such humiliation? Several young men in the private room also stood up with Qi Yuan, glaring fiercely at Yi Ning. One of the young men with a shaved head even yelled, Kid, if you kneel down and apologize to Mr. Qi now, and then give this woman to Mr. Qi to have fun with, you will be spared today. As soon as the young man with the shaved head finished speaking, Yi Ning's fist had already arrived at his face. Bang! With just one punch, the bald youth's nose bone caved in, and blood spurted from both nostrils. Damn it, hit me! Without Qi Yuan's beckoning, the other few thugs were already ready to do it. Qi Yuan, you dare to touch Yi Ge, I don't think you want to live anymore. Outside the door, Han Yu and a few others put their hands in their pockets and kicked the door open with one kick. Seeing Yi Ning standing in the center unharmed, they let out a sigh of relief. Who dares to stop me, do you believe I? Qi Yuan was also overwhelmed by anger, but when he saw Han Yu and the others, his mind cleared instantly. Because whether it was Han Yu, Zhou Chen, or Liao Shen and Ai Yang, none of these young masters could he afford to offend. Even his father had to curry favor with Han Yu's father. How dare he, Qi Yuan, even think about it? Brother Yi, are you okay? Brother Yi. Brother Yi. Brother Yi. Han Yu and the others ignored Qi Yuan and went straight to Yi Ning's back. Well, fortunately you came in time. Yi Ning nodded. Then he pointed at Qi Yuan and said, do you know this person? Liao Shen took a step forward and replied, Qi Yuan, he owns a hot spring spa at home and has a little money. Yi Ning glanced at Qi Yuan and pulled Yi Xiao next to him. He introduced, this is my younger sister. If I hadn't run into her today, she would have been screwed by this kid. What? Han Yu blared at Qi Yuan, saying, is that so, Qi Xiao? Qi Yuan had already been intimidated when he saw Han Yu and the others. He was even more panicked when he heard the young masters call Yi Ning brother. Qi Yuan, who was at a loss for what to do, now just hoped that Yi Ning would let him off. Tian Wu, Guang Tu, and the other young thugs in the room were even more scared and didn't dare to say a word. No kidding, these young masters, casually one of them can kill them all, not to mention a mysterious and terrifying Yi Ning. Han Xiao, I was also implicated, I hope you will forgive me, Yi Ge explained with trembling. Bang! Yi Ning kicked Qi Yuan in the waist. Qi Yuan couldn't hold back the force and fell sideways. Yi Ning stepped forward and kicked Qi Yuan's abdomen fiercely. If you want to beg for mercy, you have to look like you're begging for mercy. Can't you even kneel? Even Han Yu, who had seen Yi Ning beat Lu Tianxiang, was shocked by the raging Yi Ning at this moment. Not to mention Zhou Chen and the others who had just met Yi Ning today. It turned out that Yi Ning, who had given them an impression of being approachable when they first met at the bar, was actually so violent when he got angry. As for the bald guys who had been in the private room from the beginning, they had already been scared silly. Tian Wu felt that he was doing quite well when he saw that his brother Qi Yuan had been kicked to death. No, Yi Ge, I was wrong. Yi Ge, I will kneel to you. Yi Ge, I am sorry. Miss Yi, I am sorry, ah. No one rushed forward to stop Yi Ning. The room was now incredibly quiet, and all that could be heard was the sound of Yi Ning hitting people and Qi Yuan begging for mercy. Brother, let's forget about it. In the end, Yi Xiaoxiao stepped forward and gently tugged Yi Ning's hem. Seeing Qi Yuan, who was bruised and bloody, she was really afraid that he would be beaten to death or disabled by his brother. Yi Ning stopped, but Qi Yuan still dared not get up, kneeling in place and bowing frantically. At this time, Yi Ning asked coldly, "You said you were also implicated, what is going on?" Cough, poof. Qi Yuan spat out a bloody tooth and hurriedly explained. "Brother Yi, it's her. It's this woman who brought Miss Yi here and charged me 10,000 yuan. Qi Yuan pointed at a woman with blonde hair and a seductive outfit in the corner, her tone sinister. Chapter 52 Reason. The blonde woman was shocked when Yi Ning turned to her. Especially when she met Yi Ning's eyes, which were like an abyss, she felt a chill. "Brother! This is my classmate Zhao Yuan." Yi Xiaoxiao came to Yi Ning's side and whispered. "What exactly happened?" Yi Ning asked. "I wanted to find a part-time job, and she said she knew a job that would make a lot of money quickly. I never thought she would bring me to a bar. I wanted to leave, but she wouldn't let me go." Yi Xiaoxiao's words made Yi Ning burn with anger. He felt that Yi Xiaoxiao shouldn't be in such a place, and that she had been tricked here. She was tricked here by her own classmate. "Is that so?" "Ha!" Yi Ning's eyes narrowed slightly, and Zhao Yuan, who was huddled in the corner, was shocked and hastily argued. "It's just that I came here to keep her company, I didn't want to." Pop. Yi Ning was furious, and slapped Zhao Yuan in the face. "Do you take me for a fool?" The powder on Zhao Yuan's face fell off in one layer and soon swelled up. Zhao Yuan's tears gushed out in an instant, but she still didn't dare to argue back. She could only cast her gaze at Yi Xiaoxiao, hoping that Yi Xiaoxiao would let her off the hook out of classmate affection. But Yi Xiaoxiao not only ignored her, she even walked over to the side. She was not stupid at all and knew that the current situation was actually caused by Zhao Yuan. She was grateful to Zhao Yuan for introducing her to the part-time job, but it was definitely not what she was doing. Not to mention Qi Yuan had also said that Zhao Yuan had received 10,000 yuan from him. 10,000 yuan was enough to sell her, Yi Xiaoxiao. This so-called friendship was nothing but bullshit. Yi Ning did not care about Zhao Yuan's emotions and directly took out her phone in front of everyone and called Wu Jishir. "Mr. Yi, what do you want with the old man?" Wu Jishir asked over the phone. "Yi Ning, Dean Wu, do you have connections at Jiangcheng Medical University?" Wu Jishir, "Yes, I'm still the honorary vice president of Jiangcheng Medical University." "That's good, there's a Zhao Yuan at your school, go ahead." Yi Ning said calmly. "Okay, I'll go to the school myself tomorrow." Wu Jishir didn't even ask for a reason and directly agreed. No. Yi Xiao, I was wrong, please hit me, don't fire me, I beg you, don't fire me." Although Yi Ning didn't know who was on the other end of the phone, Zhao Yuan was no fool and knew that since Yi Ning had said he would fire her, he definitely had the power to do so. If she was really expelled from Jiangcheng Medical University, all her efforts over the years would be for nothing. She would rather Yi Ning give her a good scolding here than be expelled from school. Smile, we are friends, we are classmates, you must help me, persuade your brother, I beg you." Zhao Yuan knelt down, moved her knees to Yi Xiaoxiao's legs, hugged Yi Xiaoxiao's legs and begged for mercy while crying. But Yi Ning directly grabbed Zhao Yuan's hair and pushed her away. "Now get out of here, this matter ends here, dare to say another word, do you believe I will call the police now?" Zhao Yuan shivered, sobbing, and not daring to make a sound. She knew that with Yi Ning's methods, coupled with the fact that she had already cheated Yi Xiaoxiao, if she really called the police, she would definitely not get a good outcome. Seeing Yi Xiaoxiao's face, which was stuck to the side, Zhao Yuan's expression fell, and she could only take out the 10,000 yuan in cash in her handbag and put it on the table, leaving sadly. "Brother Yi, do you need me to call someone to teach her a lesson?" Han Yu asked. Yi Ning shook his head and said, "Let's stop here." Then he looked back at Qi Yuan, Qi Xiao, and said, "Today is a small lesson, and the next time won't be so easy." Qi Yuan heard Yi Ning's words and secretly let out a sigh of relief. At least Yi Ning planned to let him off. Yi Xiao can rest assured that there won't be a next time. Yi Ning reached out and put his arm around Yi Xiaoxiao, and said to Han Yu and the others, "Let's go." Yi Ning and the others left the private room, and Qi Yuan slumped onto the sofa, feeling a sense of fear. When they arrived in the lobby, Yi Ning said to Han Yu, "I'll go home first today, let's hang out again next time." Han Yu and the others also expressed their understanding. "Brother, is this your car?" Yi Ning took Yi Xiaoxiao over to the Koenigsegg 11 and Yi Xiaoxiao was shocked. She didn't know anything about cars, but this car was obviously not cheap. It must cost at least a few million? It's mine. Yining nodded without further explanation and drove Yi Xiaoxiao away from the Hongying bar. Why don't you stay at my place for the night? I'll drive you to school tomorrow. Yi Xiaoxiao agreed to the plan, thinking that the school would probably be closed by now. As she quietly watched Yining drive carefully, Yi Xiaoxiao felt for the first time that her brother was very mysterious. Not only was he a rich young man in Jiangcheng, he was also very wealthy himself. He could even fire Zhao Yuan with just one phone call. That was pretty impressive. What's wrong? Yining asked with a smile, seeing Yi Xiaoxiao staring at him. No, I just feel that you've changed a lot. By the way, brother, doesn't your wife get angry when you go to the bar? Yi Xiaoxiao teased. Which wife are you talking about? Yining pondered. Of course it's He-Man. Is there any other wife? Yi Xiaoxiao had also met He-Man before when she visited Yining's rented room. Chapter 53 Yi Xiaoxiao and her roommate. He-Man and I broke up a long time ago. So you're single now? Do you want me to introduce you to a girlfriend? That's not it. I just got a new girlfriend. Really? Do you have a photo? I want to see it. Hearing that Yining had a girlfriend, Yi Xiaoxiao's eyes lit up. Here, the password hasn't changed. Yining handed his phone to Yi Xiaoxiao. Yi Xiaoxiao was slightly taken aback when she saw Su Weier's photo. This girl is so beautiful. Yi Xiaoxiao is a beauty in her own right, and while she is not drop-dead gorgeous, she is at least considered naturally beautiful. But after seeing Su Weier's photo, she realized that there are people who can be born this beautiful. However, as more and more photos appeared, lines of black appeared on Yi Xiaoxiao's forehead. Brother, you are really a scumbag. Yi Xiaoxiao couldn't help but complain. She actually saw photos of 3 different women in Yining's phone, and the key was that everyone was exceptionally beautiful. She even knew one of them. She was Bai Yiluo, the campus queen of Jiangcheng University. Any one of these 3 women would be considered a top-notch beauty. Not to mention men, even she as a girl would like them. But these 3 women were all related to her brother. Although Bai Yiluo's photos were nothing special, just a few everyday photos. But the photos of Su Weier and Mo Qingqing with Yining were obviously photos taken between lovers. When Bai Yiluo's photos were placed together with these, could there be any exceptions? Why do you say that? Yining asked cheekily. Don't tell me that the 3 beautiful women in your phone have nothing to do with you, you scumbag. You're wrong. Yining shook his head. I'll listen to your excuses. Yining said solemnly, not 3, but 4. You still have a sister-in-law without a photo. I believe there will be one in the future. Huh? Yi Xiaoxiao was speechless. She thought she really misunderstood, but it turned out to be like this. Forgive her for her lack of experience and shallow understanding. Following Yining back to Yunshan Longjing, Yi Xiaoxiao saw that the villa in front of her was even more messy. Is this still the cousin she knew? A luxury car and mansion, and a beautiful school beauty. This cousin of hers is really at the peak. The next day, since Yi Xiaoxiao had a class in the morning, Yining sent her to school very early. Yi Xiaoxiao didn't know Yining's Koenigsegg, but she knew the Benz she was sitting in now. The rich kids at school who have a little money like to drive BBAs. Yining's Mercedes-Benz is so imposing, it must not be cheap. Jiangcheng Medical University is also located in the university town, and Yining knows the way well. Entering Jiangcheng Medical University, Yining takes Yi Xiaoxiao to the bottom of the dormitory building. Be careful when making friends in the future, okay? Don't hang out with those dubious people. Yining earnestly admonishes her. Yi Xiaoxiao giggles and sticks out her tongue, I know. In an attempt to get away with it. If there's anything, just give me a call. If you really need a part-time job, I can introduce you to someone. Yi Xiaoxiao is a student at Jiangcheng Medical University. Although she has not yet graduated, she can be arranged to intern at Jiangcheng Kangda Hospital. This will definitely be beneficial to Yi Xiaoxiao's future development. Thanks, brother. Yining strokes her hair and says, go on, don't be late for class. Are you going to pick up girls? Yi Xiaoxiao asks in return. You've grown up, haven't you? You dare tease your brother. Yi Xiaoxiao twisted her body to avoid Yining's right hand that wanted to pinch her face, quickly opened the car door, and said, excuse me. As Yi Xiaoxiao skipped up the stairs, a trace of tenderness flashed in Yining's eyes. He believed that after this incident, Yi Xiaoxiao's vigilance would definitely be much higher. At least if she encountered the same situation again, she wouldn't be as passive as she was yesterday. Yi Xiaoxiao returned to the dormitory and saw that all three roommates had not yet woken up. Is this the routine of college students? They don't sleep at night and don't get up during the day. Get up! Yi Xiaoxiao patted her roommates, bedding one by one. Class will start in half an hour. If you don't get up, you'll be late. Xiao Xiao, you're back? A short-haired girl opened her sleepy eyes from the bed by the door. Yes. Yi Xiaoxiao nodded. Xiaozi is almost up. You are always the slowest. Xiaozi rolled over and got up. While getting dressed, she asked, so? How much did you make yesterday working part-time with Xiao Yuan? Well, I'll tell you about that later. I can only say that Xiao Yuan has been fired. What? The other two roommates in the room also got up in surprise. You went out to work part-time and ended up getting fired? What about you? Xiaozi asked with a worried look on her face. Yi Xiaoxiao shook her head. Don't worry, I'm fine. After class, Yi Xiaoxiao told the others what happened last night. Plus, this morning, Zhao Yuan was called to the dean's office by the school leaders before class. Yi Xiaoxiao's roommates finally understood what had happened. That was really thrilling, Xiaoxiao. Xiaozi still had a worried look on her face. But Xiaoxiao, is your cousin the handsome guy you showed us the photo of before? Yi Xiaoxiao's other roommate had a hopeful look on her face. They had all seen the photo of Yi Xiaoxiao and Yining together, and Yining's handsome face and tall figure were really handsome. It was even more handsome than the school's so-called school grass. It's him. Yi Xiaoxiao looked at the big, shining eyes of the several people and reached out to stop them. It's not that I don't want to introduce you, there's no hope. Why is there no hope? Xiaozi pulled Yi Xiaoxiao's sleeve and swung it back and forth, cooing, Xiaoxiao, introduce us, just in case it works out, right? Yining is handsome and rich. He is also so strong-willed in protecting his sister, who wouldn't be moved by a man like that? Sigh. Yi Xiaoxiao sighed and said helplessly, my brother has someone he likes, and you all know her. Just tell me who it is. If you swing the hoe well, there's no corner of the wall you can't dig. That's right, no matter which vixen, she can't take away my Yi brother. Yi Xiaoxiao couldn't help but laugh at the fierce looks of the women. It's Jiangcheng University School Flower, by Iluwa. Don't even think about it, you can't compete. Yi Xiaoxiao shook her head with her hands spread out. By Iluwa. Xiaozi patted Yi Xiaoxiao on the shoulder. Your brother's Mercedes-Benz wouldn't be a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, would it? Huh? How did you know? You saw it? My brother said it was this model. Yi Xiaoxiao said incredulously. Sigh. Yi Xiaoxiao's three roommates simultaneously let out a cold breath. Could it be that the mysterious boyfriend of Bai Yiluo, who had been circulating the other day, was Yining, Yi Xiaoxiao's cousin? Chapter 54 Chapter 50 for the hypocritical Xin Xian. After leaving Jiangcheng Medical University, Yining drove to the commercial street in the university town. Although it was not yet 8 o'clock, many businesses had already opened for business. Thinking about the day before, Su Wire had called to say that she had hired a moving company to move her house to Emerald City. Yining bought a bouquet of gypsophila and came to the breakfast shop to buy something to eat to find her. Since meeting Bai Iluwa's boyfriend Yining holding hands with a beautiful woman on a date on the commercial street, Xin Xian's mind never stopped. She dressed up every day, just in case she would meet Yining one day. She even blocked all the contact information of her previous male friends. Bai Iluwa had never revealed his family background at school, but everyone in the class knew that Bai Iluwa was quite wealthy. Those Gucci bags and Cartier necklaces were part of Bai Iluwa's daily attire. Yining, being a second-generation rich kid, must have bought all these things for her. Thinking about this, Xin Xian felt jealous and her teeth ached. If only she could climb into Yining's bed, even as a lover, she could get the life she wanted. However, recently her ex-boyfriend, Zhou Juanhao, had been looking for her like crazy, wanting to get back together with her. At one point, he even found his way into her class. Xin Xian was tired of it and finally decided to set things straight with him face-to-face today. The two had arranged to meet at the shopping mall, and Xin Xian set off early in the morning. Xin Xian, who had been feeling restless, was suddenly overjoyed when she saw a black Mercedes-Benz parked on the roadside. Looking around, she finally saw the familiar back in front of the breakfast shop. Yes. That's right. That person is Yining. Xin Xian was ecstatic and walked towards Yining. Young man, these flowers are so beautiful, where did you buy them? Yi Ning turned around and saw a woman with a seductive outfit and a strong perfume smell behind him. She stared at the gypsophila in his hand without taking her eyes off him, as if she really liked it. It's just over there at the flower shop, you can see it after you turn the corner, Yi Ning said calmly, pointing in the direction of the flower shop. Seeing that she had successfully struck up a conversation with Yi Ning, Xian couldn't help but feel happy. Pretending to be pleading, she said, "Young man, could you please take me there? I'm not familiar with the area." I'm sorry, I have something to do later, you can just walk straight down the street, the sign is very conspicuous. Yi Ning refused without hesitation. Seeing Yi Ning take the buns and soy milk from the stall owner, pay, and prepare to leave, Xian felt a little anxious. Suddenly, a figure appeared in her line of sight. Xian's eyes twinkled, and a plan came to mind. Xian, you finally come. Look, I bought you this LV bag for 18,000 yuan. Do you like it? Zhou Juanhao came up to Xian and handed her a gift box. He knew that Xian liked luxury goods, and in order to get back together with her, he had spent a lot of money this time. Zhou Juanhao was very confident that after giving away this bag, Xian would definitely change her mind. It was even possible that he might be able to eat meat tonight. However, what he got in return was not Xian's reconciliation, but a disdainful laugh. Heh, Zhou Juanhao, don't even try this. I've already told you that I don't like you, and I have a boyfriend. Who? Xian, you tell me. Hearing that Xian had a new boyfriend, Zhou Juanhao was like a lit fuse, with veins popping out on his forehead. This is my boyfriend, Yi Ning, richer and more handsome than you. Xian pointed at Yi Ning next to the Mercedes-Benz, her face full of pride. But she didn't notice that Yi Ning's eyebrows were furrowed tightly. This woman actually knew her name, but just now she pretended not to know him. The key point was that she used him as a shield, so hypocritical and mean, which made Yi Ning a little upset. In that case, Yi Ning naturally would not really let Xian have her way. Seeing Zhou Juanhao, who was angry and walked up, Yi Ning explained, "I don't know her, and I'm not her boyfriend." As he said this, he was about to open the car door. However, a hand suddenly pulled on the car door. "Kid, you're pretty arrogant, daring to steal my woman." Yi Ning's face was gloomy, and he said word by word, "Are you deaf? I said I don't know this woman, and what's between you two is none of my business." Yi Ning, you just said that these gypsophila are for me, so how can it be none of your business? Xian took advantage of Yi Ning's inattentiveness and reached out to take his arm. Zhou Juanhao saw this and his face turned incredibly ugly. He threatened, "Kid, I advise you to stay away from Xian, or else believe it or not I'll get out." Yi Ning had been very restrained, but Zhou Juanhao was just like a boiling goat, so no matter how much he said, he had no intention of listening, so he couldn't help but scold him. Yi Ning, who had suddenly turned his face, made Zhou Juanhao jump in surprise. If he tried to fight, he knew he would definitely lose to the tall Yi Ning. He could only back away while pointing at Yi Ning and saying, "Fine, kid, we'll see." Perhaps he was afraid of Yi Ning's actions and turned around and disappeared into the crowd. "Yi Ning, I'm sorry, I caused a conflict between you and Zhou Juanhao." Xian pretended to look apologetic, and used her hand to flip her hair behind her ear. "How about I buy you lunch as a thank you for helping me today?" Her tone revealed a flirtatiousness that was similar to those girls at nightclubs trying to pick up guys. This woman was so hypocritical that Yi Ning felt a little sick to his stomach. With great difficulty, he resisted the urge to vomit and shook her hand off. "Get out of my sight." He glared at Xian in disgust, and in her dazed state, he got into his Mercedes-Benz and drove off. Chapter 55, he doesn't even look at you. Looking at the taillights that were gradually getting farther and farther away, Xian stamped her feet in anger. Then she thought of something else, took out her phone, and edited it on the campus forum. "Family members, who understands? Today I met a shrimp-headed man." At the end, there was also a photo of the Mercedes-Benz G. Yi Ning of course did not know that, following the last time he sent Bai Yiluo back to school to become famous, today he became famous again because of Xian's post. At Jiangcheng University, whenever there is news about Bai Yiluo, the attention is never low. And this time, a rumor that Bai Yiluo's rich boyfriend is a scumbag has pushed Yi Ning to the forefront. "Yiluo, look! The school forum is talking about your would-be boyfriend." During lunch, Ai Xian handed Bai Yiluo her phone. Bai Yiluo was wondering why the people around her were looking at her strangely today. It wasn't until Ai Xian reminded her that she saw the post sent by Xinshan that she understood. But Bai Yilihua is very smart, and even though she recognized Yi Ning's car in the photo, she would not believe Xinshan's one-sided words. Yilihua, what do you think? Ai Xian looked at her best friend with a worried expression. Although Bai Yilihua had always explained to Ai Xian that Yi Ning and she were not in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. But from what she knew of Bai Yilihua, she could tell that this otherworldly woman saw Yi Ning as different from everyone else. At the very least, Bai Yilihua had feelings for Yi Ning. This was Bai Yilua's first love, and naturally Ai Xian didn't want her to be crushed. But at the moment, Bai Yilihua wasn't as upset or angry as Ai Xian had expected. Her expression was as usual, as calm as water. She flipped through the text written by Xinshan while eating the food on her plate at a leisurely pace. After reading it, Bai Yilihua returned the phone to Ai Xian, shook her head, and said, "Fake." "Yilihua, you weren't even there, so how do you know it's fake?" Suddenly, Xinshan's voice came from behind Bai Yilihua. She was holding a tray of food and sat directly next to Bai Yilihua. "I'm not joking, Yilihua. Your boyfriend is disgusting. This morning, he even tried to grope me. If I hadn't reacted quickly, he would have succeeded." Xinshan patted her chest, acting as if she were still shaken. "I advise you to break up with him as soon as possible. He is a scumbag who hits on every pretty woman he sees. I really don't know what he's like in private." After a long tirade, she had belittled Yi Ning without reserve. After talking for so long, Xinshan felt dry and thirsty. However, Bai Yilihua didn't show any expression on his face, not even a frown. He took out a tissue to wipe his mouth, then picked up his tray and stood up. It was as if she hadn't seen Xinshan, as if she had treated her like air, and what she had said was almost as if she had farted. "Bai Yilihua, don't you believe what I said?" Seeing Bai Yilihua about to leave, Xinshan panicked and stood up, shouting. "If you don't believe me, at least it's impossible for me to harass you, because he doesn't even look at you." These words directly silenced Xinshan. Bai Yilihua carried the tray, and together with Ai Xian, who was holding back her laughter, they left calmly. "He doesn't even look at you. He doesn't even look at you. He doesn't even look at you." Xinshan's mind was filled with Bai Yilua's words, which were repeating over and over again. Then she remembered the disgusted look in Yi Ning's eyes when he told her to get lost in the morning. Xinshan's nose became runny, and she cried loudly on the table. "Luo, you're so awesome, Xinshan must be so angry with you." Walking out of the cafeteria, Ai Xian couldn't stop laughing. Her best friend was like that. When you don't provoke her, she's like a quiet fairy. If you make her angry, she'll make you cry. The key is that her careful and serious manner of speaking is hard to resist. When Yi Ning arrived at the bottom of Building 6 in Emerald City, he happened to run into Liao Peng showing two young women the apartment. Seeing Yi Ning, Liao Peng, who was in a springtime mood, was even more surprised. "Yi Ning, I was just about to call you today to transfer the money, and you're here." Because Yi Ning had given him the right to rent Building 6, Liao Peng's income would at least double this month. Therefore, he was sincerely grateful to Yi Ning. "No need, you can just transfer the money to my card," Yi Ning said with a smile. He believed that with such a big brand as Emerald Cove, it would be impossible to do something that would tarnish its reputation, such as cheating landlords out of their rent. "Okay." Yi Ning's trust made Liao Peng feel very comfortable, so I'll take the two guests to the property management office first. Yi Ning gave an okay sign and got into the elevator. The reason for leaving quickly was not only because he wanted to see Su Wire quickly. The other reason was that if he and Liao Peng talked for a while, the two girls would eat him alive. After Yi Ning went upstairs, the two beautiful women looked disappointed. "This young man is really handsome. But the other guy has flowers, so he obviously has a girlfriend. Otherwise, he would have asked for his contact information a long time ago. Ladies, if you rent here, you will see Mr. Yi a lot." Seeing the expressions of the two customers, Liao Peng had a brainstorm and said half-jokingly, "Oh? So the handsome guy lives here too?" One of the beautiful women asked hurriedly. The other girl also turned her gaze to Liao Peng. Cough. Liao Peng coughed twice. "Mr. Yi doesn't live here, but this entire building belongs to Mr. Yi. So Mr. Yi is the landlord." As soon as Liao Peng finished speaking, the two beautiful women had already walked in front of him. "Hey, hurry up, aren't you even enthusiastic about signing the contract?" Liao Peng. "So the beauty plan is actually that simple?" "Yes, yes, yes. Looks count, and they are always in demand everywhere." Chapter 56 Yu Qiu. Knock, knock, knock. Su Weier, are you in there? Open the door. A moment later, the sound of slippers tapping could be faintly heard inside the room. Yining was originally about to call Su Weier, but unexpectedly, he had gotten up so early. Creak. The door opened. Why did you get up so early today? Did you miss me? Yining gave a smirk and handed over the flowers in his hands at the first opportunity. But the person inside the house did not take the gypsophila, because the one who opened the door was not Su Weier. Instead, it was a middle-aged woman in her 40s, dressed in ordinary clothes. I'm sorry, I've gone the wrong way. Yining apologized. Just as he was about to turn around, the woman who opened the door asked, "Are you looking for Su Weier?" "Yes, sister, and you are?" Yining guessed slightly. Seeing Yining nod, the woman's face revealed a smile, and while taking out a pair of slippers from the shoe cabinet next to her shoes, she whispered, "I'm Su Weier's mother, come on in." Yining understood, took a step back, bowed slightly, and said, "Hello, auntie, my name is Yining, I'm Su Weier's boyfriend, you can call me Xiao or Xiaoning." Yu Qiu, who had been wondering what relationship this young handsome guy had with her daughter, couldn't help but feel happy when Yining volunteered the information. During university, she had told her daughter to find a boyfriend, but despite the fact that so many guys were after her, none of them worked out. Even the boys her friends introduced to her, Su Weier rejected one after the other. This matter made Yu Qiu feel very helpless. At one point, she even wondered if her daughter had a problem with her sexual orientation. Today, after seeing Yining, she finally had an answer to her long-term worry. It wasn't that Su Weier didn't want to fall in love, but that she hadn't met the right person. Sitting on the sofa, Yining saw Yu Qiu holding the teapot and quickly got up. "Auntie, let me help you." "Okay, you hold the tea on the cabinet for me." Su Weier's mother was not very tall, but Su Weier was 1.7 meters tall. It seems that she inherited her father's genes. Yu Qiu placed the teapot on the table after brewing the tea, and just sat down when the door at the far end of the corridor was pushed open. What followed was a girl wearing a thin nightgown that revealed her half-moon breasts, with her hair messy and her eyes half open from sleep. "Mom, what are you doing so early in the morning, making a lot of noise?" Su Weier rubbed her eyes, pouted her lips, and spoke in a sweet, childish voice. From the moment he first met Su Weier, Yining knew that the girl had a lot going for her. But when he actually saw her, he realized just how magnificent she was. The Mariana Trench is pretty deep, too. And Su Weier has fair, delicate skin, so even without body lotion, she still looks radiant. It's a bit blinding, a bit dizzy. Cough. Yu Qiu pretended to cough twice. "Mom, you have a cold." Su Weier's words were not finished when she finally saw Yining sitting on the sofa. In an instant, a blush climbed up from her collarbone to her cheeks. "Ah!" Su Weier hugged her bear with both hands and ran quickly to the bedroom. Bang! The door slammed shut, and only the little brown bear doll glued to the door swung back and forth. Alas, this girl. Yu Qiu closed his eyes, stroked his forehead, and shook his head. It was half an hour before Su Weier, fully dressed, came shuffling into the living room. "Yining, why didn't you say you were coming?" Su Weier's tone was slightly reproachful. Her nightdress was low-cut at the top and high-cut at the bottom, and it was also very thin, so she would not have worn it if she had known. If it had just been Yu Qiu, Su Weier would have been fine with it. If it was just the two of them, she would be embarrassed, but it was within her limits. But unfortunately, she was wearing a nightdress and was exposed to the view of both her mother and Yining. This was really embarrassing. Now, Su Weier's face was still blushing. In particular, she couldn't help rolling her eyes when she accidentally glanced at Yining's upturned corners of his mouth from time to time, looking like he had found money. "Daughter, why didn't you tell me you have a boyfriend? If Ning hadn't come today, were you going to keep it a secret forever?" Yu Qiu said impatiently. Su Weier knew that this was the question she was most concerned about, but she still hid it even though she had a boyfriend. Besides, Yining is so handsome, and standing together with her daughter, they are a perfect match. Is she afraid that she won't approve? "Mom, we haven't reached that step yet," Su Weier argued. It's true that Yining and Su Weier are not officially together. But the two have kissed and cuddled. Even the house Su Weier is living in now belongs to Yining. How can there be any room for error? You haven't reached that step? Where is that step? Yu Qiuji asked. I can almost read it on your face, you will only marry Ning. What more do you want? Yu Chou's words made Su Weier even more embarrassed. Mom, what are you talking about? Then she turned her gaze to Yining and said, you don't know how to help me either. Do you think it's funny to see my mom keep on scolding me? Yining nodded solemnly, I think what Auntie said is right. I even want to pour a cappuccino for her. Su Weier. You see, even Ning knows that I'm right and doesn't bother to respond. Yu Chou stood up. Ning, you and this girl sit and chat, I'll go shopping, and we'll eat here at noon. Auntie, let's go out for lunch, I'll treat today. Yining suggested. Those things outside are so expensive and not hygienic, you guys chat first. After saying that, Yu Chou picked up the small handbag on the sofa and scooted downstairs. The house was left with just Yining and Su Weier. Seeing the delicate Su Weier, who looked like a budding flower, Yining's heart fluttered. You, what? Su Weier moved slightly backward, buried her head slightly, and lifted her silky hair behind her ears. Her pretty face was red, like a ripe peach. How could Yining bear such a cute and beautiful girl? In a soft moan, Su Weier let herself be pulled into his arms. Chapter 57 Mother-in-law looking at son-in-law. Yining was infatuated with the faint fragrance exuding from Su Weier's body. Did you miss me? Yining gently rested his chin on Su Weier's hair. Yes, I did. Su Weier closed her eyes and buried her head in Yining's arms. Only when she was with this man would she let down her guard and show him some of the beauty she had hidden away. Well. Although it wasn't the first time she had kissed Su Weier, her soft, moist red lips still made Yining reluctant to let go. It wasn't until Su Weier could hardly breathe that Yining let her go with a smile. There's been improvement since last time, but I still need to practice. Yining said smugly. Humph. I know you're just bullying me. Su Weier turned her face to the side and ignored him. But the little red, shiny earlobes were not at all convincing. Everyone knows Yining is the type of person who takes advantage of others and then acts all innocent. Right now, he must be feeling really pleased with himself. The two of them continued to flirt with each other until Yu Chou returned, when they finally calmed down a bit. Seeing Yu Chou's slightly meaningful gaze, even the cheeky Yining felt a little embarrassed and couldn't help but rub his nose. Not to mention Su Weier, who had long since run into the room in shame. Afterwards, Yining even helped Yu Chou with the cooking. Although with his master-level cooking skills, the food he made would definitely be tastier than Yu Chou's. Yining still gave up the position of chef to Yu Chou, and he was just there to help out. Even so, Yu Chou still kept praising Yining for being capable. Now she likes Yining more and more. Not only is he sensible, he can also cook, which is very good. At the dinner table, Yu Chou kept on helping Yining with his food. Seeing Yining's bowl piled high with food, Su Weier's mouth fell open. Is this really her own mother? It's as if she's an outsider, and Yining is her own son. Ning, how did you and my daughter meet? It was at the commercial street, when Weier was broadcasting live. Yining responded with a smile, and said, by the way, Auntie, why don't we go to the commercial street together this afternoon? Sure, I've been here for a few days, and I haven't gone out for a stroll yet. In the afternoon, Yining drove the mother and daughter to Jiangnan Commercial Street. After getting in the car, Yu Chou realized that Yining was so rich. The car she was driving was actually worth millions. And her daughter's very nice two-seater car was also bought by Yining. Is Yining's family really rich? Yu Chou looked at her daughter with some concern and asked in a low voice. In her opinion, apart from her daughter's good looks, she was much inferior to Yining in every other way. And isn't it said that those rich families have very deep-rooted prejudices? If, by any chance, my daughter really marries into that family in the future, won't she be looked down upon? Mom, it's fine. Yining's mother is very nice, and all this money was earned by Yining herself. Su Weier reassured her. Yining had talked to her about her original family situation, and it was actually quite similar to Su Weier's family situation. But it was this kind of family that Yining was born into, and yet she had achieved so much in such a short period of time. It was truly incredible. Moreover, Su Weier's current position in the live broadcast industry was entirely due to Yining's efforts. Hearing her daughter's words, Yu Chou let out a small sigh of relief. Today, Yining gave her a very good impression, but she was still worried that her daughter would be bullied due to the huge gap between them. Now that she heard that Yining's worth was entirely due to his own efforts, she felt even more that this young man was capable. He is handsome, capable, and good to her daughter. It is hard to find a son-in-law like this. Daughter, you must seize the day. You mustn't be selfish and you must give him some slack, understand? Facing Yu Chou's admonitions, Su Weier could only nod in agreement. What could she do? Judging by the way her mother was acting, she already considered Yi Ning her future son-in-law. What her mother didn't know was that Yi Ning had other girlfriends. But of course she wouldn't say anything, and kept quiet about it. When Yi Ning arrived at Jiangnan Commercial Street, the security guard recognized him as soon as he reached the entrance to the pedestrian street. He respectfully saluted and said, "Hello, Mr. Yi." Yi Ning smiled and nodded. He said, "You too. Don't stay out here in this heat, come inside and use the air conditioning." Yu Chou felt a little puzzled as Yi Ning exchanged pleasantries with the security guard. Seeing her mother's expression, Su Weier explained with a smile, "Mom, this Jiangnan Commercial Street is actually Yi Ning's property." Yi Ning's property. If it was Yi Ning's multi-million-dollar luxury car that she saw, Yu Chou would still think that Yi Ning was capable. But this situation, it's not something that can be achieved just by sheer ability, right? This is an entire commercial street. Even if she, Yu Chou, doesn't know much, she knows that the value cannot be measured in just a few hundred million. At least it's worth over 100 million? Over 100 million, how much is that when stacked together? At this thought, Yu Chou glanced at Yi Ning and then at her daughter, her expression inexplicable. "Mom, what's with that look in your eyes?" Su Weier saw a complex look in her mother's eyes, along with a hint of disdain. Yes. It's disdain. She's being disliked by her own mother, who's she going to complain to? I was just wondering why Yi Ning, such a great boss, would take a fancy to you. Yu Chou rested her chin in her hand, furrowing her brow as she pondered. Su Weier. Oh no, I become a stand-in, haven't I? She is my own daughter, why are you saying such things? Is there any justice in the world? Is there any law? The three of them laughed and joked as they walked along the pedestrian street, creating a beautiful sight. Just as they walked into the Chanel boutique, Su Weier's expression suddenly changed. Chapter 58, 58% of the shares of Star Ocean Airlines. What's wrong? Yi Ning was the first to notice Su Weier's expression. Su Weier shook her head, "It's nothing, let's go to another store." Yi Ning guessed that Su Weier might have run into someone she didn't want to see. Since she didn't say anything, Yi Ning didn't ask. The three left the Chanel boutique and went to the Gucci store next door. Yu Chou had never shopped at these luxury stores before. When she picked up an item of clothing, she saw that the price was actually in the 5-digit range. Looking at the others, the cheapest ones cost a few thousand yuan. Daughter, the things in this store are so expensive. She never imagined that an item of clothing could be sold for such a high price. Especially that little suspender, which when added up didn't even cover an inch of fabric, and it cost 50,000 yuan. These people are really kind, they could have just robbed you, but they actually gave you an item of clothing. Mom, these stores all charge these prices. Su Weier explained in a low voice. For example, the suit Yi Ning is wearing costs at least 300,000 yuan. 300,000. Yu Chou finally understood why the rich are rich. Take Yi Ning, for example, he looks like a handsome young man. But a few of his clothes are worth as much as an ordinary family's total income for years or even decades. Mom, this is a nice shirt, you should try it on. Su Weier picked up a purple short-sleeved shirt and said. No, I don't want it. At my age, I can't dress up like you young people. Yu Chou quickly waved his hand. Su Weier knew that it wasn't that her mother didn't want to dress up, but that she felt the clothes were too expensive. Even though she had told her mother her current income, the tens of thousands of dollars still put off traditional women like Yu Chou. This is money she can't earn in a year. As a result, she could only buy an ordinary dress here. Xiao Weier, why don't you take your aunt to try it on? Yi Ning said at this time. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff is nothing to him. Even the current Su Weier can fully afford it. After being actively persuaded by Yi Ning, Su Weier, and the young saleswoman, Yu Chou finally agreed. Then, Yi Ning picked out a few other styles that looked good, and asked both Yu Chou and Su Weier to try them on. As the saying goes, the clothes make the man. The mother and daughter looked even more radiant in their new clothes. Mom, you look great, Su Weier sincerely praised. Yu Chou looked at herself in the mirror and couldn't believe it. Was this really her? She felt like a completely different person. Yi Ning came up to Su Weier and whispered in her ear, Honey, you look good too. Yining's fresh, sunny scent, combined with the tickling breath in her ear, made Su Weier feel all tingly. Her face immediately turned red. Although she was shy, Yining's praise made her overjoyed. Her heart was pounding so fast that it was about to come out of her throat. This big bad guy was flirting with her all the time. The little interaction between Yining and Su Weier naturally attracted the attention of the young saleswoman. She looked at Su Weier with envy, thinking that she was so lucky to have a man who was rich and good-looking and, most importantly, spoilt his girlfriend. Wrap them all up and help us calculate the price. Yining's words took the saleswoman by surprise. She had worked at Gucci for several months and had never seen such a wealthy person. These clothes must cost several 100,000 yuan. Sir, do you mean wrap them all up? She couldn't believe her ears and took a step forward to confirm. Even the shop assistant, who was used to seeing rich people, was shocked, not to mention Yuqiu, who was in a luxury store for the first time. Yining's words made Yuqiu's body stiffen, and his fingers dug in. Even Su Weier, who was used to seeing Yining spend money, couldn't help but shake her body. Sure enough, Yining is still the same Yining. You thought his most handsome feature was his appearance, but it's actually the aura he exudes when spending money. Yining nodded, all of it, it's not even a few dollars. It doesn't cost much? You mean tens of millions of dollars doesn't cost much? Only a wealthy person like Yining can say something like that, right? Even Su Weier, a big anchor woman who earns tens of millions of dollars a month, doesn't have the means to be so generous. Okay, sir, just a moment. The young saleswoman was wrapped in a huge wave of surprise. She knew without having to think that her commission this month would at least be double what it used to be. A few minutes later, the saleswoman handed Yining a receipt, saying, "Sir, it's 1.18 million. How would you like to pay?" Yining, let me do it. Su Weier stepped forward and said. Almost all of these clothes belonged to her and her mother, and Yining only bought a belt. It's fine, just consider it a gift for your aunt. Of course Yining had to pay for it himself. No kidding, he can get cash back for his spending. Besides, with Su Weier as his lucky star, there is a high chance of critical strikes. Ding! The host has spent 80,000 and received a 5x cashback, 400,000 cashback. Ding! The host has spent 650,000 on Yuqiu and received a 20x critical strike, 13 million cashback. Not bad, just by going out and shopping, he has directly earned over 10 million. Isn't this faster than developing a company? Of course, the big money is yet to come. Yining looked at Su Weier with burning eyes. This girl was the real wealth. Sure enough. Ding! The host, Su Weier, spent 450,000 yuan and obtained a critical strike, winning 66% of the shares of Star Ocean Airlines, worth 12 billion yuan. Chapter 59 Father and Daughter. 66% of the shares of Star Ocean Airlines. Even if Yining now has tens of billions of dollars, and even has 1.5 billion in cash, he is still very excited about suddenly obtaining absolute control of an airline. Yining tilted his head and looked up and down at Su Weier, making Su Weier feel a little uncomfortable. Basically, every time Yining buys her something, he will give her such an eager look. Su Weier has no idea what Yining is thinking at the moment. Yining, could this little beauty be the daughter of good fortune? Just as Yining was feeling smug at having wooed the daughter of good fortune, a woman's voice interrupted his thoughts. Su Weier. It really is you, it's been a long time. Husband, come quickly, look who I've met. Next to Su Weier stood a young woman with heavy makeup. The woman looked about the same age as Su Weier and had a rather good appearance. Although she was not as good looking as Su Weier, she could be considered a beauty. Like Su Weier, this woman was also very tall, even a little taller than Su Weier. At the moment, she looked towards the entrance of the store and greeted the bald middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked to be in his 40s. Although he was not short, his huge belly and Mediterranean complexion really did not resemble the word handsome. If Yining had not heard the woman call him her husband, he would have thought they were a father and daughter. Facing the woman's enthusiasm, Su Weier's expression was not very good. Because not only did she know these two people, she was also very familiar with them. The reason why she had just pulled Yining away from in front of the Chanel store was because she saw these two people inside. Unexpectedly, she still ran into them. The young woman's name was Lu Yan, and she was Su Weier's college classmate, both studying to be flight attendants. The husband she was referring to was Zhang Wanyan, the business minister of Shanghai Airlines, and he had great power. A few months ago, it was this person who came to Su Wire's school to recruit flight attendants.
Zhang Wanyan was originally a playboy, and he had slept with many flight attendants.
Especially those young girls who had just entered society and didn't know any better. In order not to be fired by Zhang Wanyan, they could only obediently climb into his bed. From the moment Zhang Wanyan first saw Su Wire, he launched a crazy pursuit of her. After living for decades, he had never seen a woman as beautiful as Su Wire.
Su Wire has a pure appearance, a tall figure, and a seductive body.
Every bit of it attracts Zhang Wanyan. He swears that he must get this woman. But what he didn't expect was that in the face of his threats, Su Wire didn't even consider it and simply refused. In the end, she even simply left the aviation industry and quit her job as a flight attendant. This incident became Zhang Wanyan's regret for a time. Unexpectedly, today, he ran into Su Wire again in this shopping street, which was truly a pleasant surprise.
Zhang Wanyan's long-dormant thoughts came back to life.
Su, oh no, I should say Miss Su now, it's really great to meet you. Zhang Wanyan came to Lu Sun's side with a surprised look on his face, and extended his right hand to Su Wire in a gentlemanly manner.
Seeing Su Wire's pale and delicate hands, Zhang Wanyan held back his desire to swallow.
However, Su Wire simply ignored him and took the bag from the salesgirl. Indifferently, I'm sorry, I don't know you, and I don't have time to get to know you. After saying that, she turned her gaze to Yining and Yuqiu. Mom, honey, let's go.
Honey? Could it be that Su Wire is already married? Zhang Wanyan only then noticed Yining, who was dressed in casual clothes.
Yining was so handsome, standing there without saying a word, and Zhang Wanyan thought he was a male model from a Gucci store. He never imagined that he was Su Wire's husband. As for LVN, when she learned that Su Wire had such a handsome husband, she was very jealous.
Why was her man a fat, balding man with a big belly and greasy hair?
Su Wire, on the other hand, had a young, handsome, and charming husband.
Why?
Plus, Su Wire had bought so many things, and was obviously very rich. 80% of this money must have come from this handsome young man.
For Zhang Wanyan and Lu Yan, Su Wire's husband was like a sharp knife.
But for Yining, Su Wire's address was like a gentle spring breeze. Soft, gentle, and so sweet. If she called him a few more times, that would be even better. Yining put on a gentle face and gently took what Su Wire was holding. He took her hand and wouldn't let go. Yes, wife. As Su Wire's mother, Yuqiu silently watched the young couple perform.
Wait.
Seeing Yining and the two of them about to leave, Zhang Wanyan stepped forward. The young man is very lucky to be able to marry someone as beautiful as Miss Su.
Yining smiled blandly and replied, You're also lucky. Someone like you, it's a miracle to have given birth to such a daughter.
Yining couldn't help but hear that Zhang Wanyan was actually mocking him, so he just responded directly.
You. Zhang Wanyan pointed at Yining and said disdainfully, sharp-tongued.
Miss Su, you have bad taste, and your husband is too frivolous. You are indeed stable and prudent, but I don't know if your daughter can bear it.
Yining sneered.
Ah, very good. I, Zhang Wanyan, have been the Minister of Commerce of Shanghai Airlines for so long, and I have never met such an arrogant young person like you.
I've also never met someone like you.
Halfway through his sentence, Yining looked surprised.
Wait, where did you say you were the Minister of Commerce?
Chapter 60 I'm the chairman of the board of directors of Shanghai Airlines.
Zhang Wanyan raised his head proudly and said, I'm the Minister of Commerce of Shanghai Airlines.
Why, are you afraid?
Seeing Yining's surprised expression, Zhang Wanyan thought Yining was shocked by his identity.
That was normal, although Yining looked like he had some money. But at such a young age, he is at most a small rich second generation from Jiangcheng. And the Starry Sea Airlines he works for is one of the top 10 airlines in the country. How awe-inspiring is it to be the Minister of Commerce in such a place? How could a small second-generation rich guy like Yining touch that? Isn't this too coincidental? Just got 66% of the shares of Starry Sea Airlines, and now I run into Zhang Wanyan from Starry Sea Airlines? Su Wire had previously talked to him about why he had switched careers from the airline industry to become an anchor. It seems that this person is the man who wanted to secretly seduce Su Wire. If this person simply liked Su Wire, Yining might not have said anything. But Zhang Wanyan still had feelings for Su Wire even though he knew she had a husband, and Yining would not indulge him. Mr. Yi, I am Peng Yuran, the manager of the Gucci store in Jiangcheng. It's a pleasure to meet you. Just then, a woman wearing a small suit and glasses came up to Yining and shook his hand excitedly.
Mr. Yi, I am the manager of Chanel. Welcome to visit.
Mr. Yi, I am the owner of Van Cleef Arpels.
Welcome.
In an instant, almost all the store managers on the first floor of the Gucci store were present and greeted Yi Ning. As the sole owner of Jiangnan Commercial Street, in the eyes of these business owners, Yi Ning is the real benefactor. Only by currying favor with Yi Ning can they survive. In Jiangcheng, which commercial street can match the prosperity of Jiangnan Commercial Street? Opening a store here is not just about the high footfall, but also about saving face as a luxury brand. Su Weier and Yu Qiuzhou already knew that Yi Ning was the boss here, so they kept their faces calm. But Zhang Wanyan and Lu Yan didn't know. Seeing Yi Ning being fawned over by so many bosses, they were shocked. Zhang Wanyan in particular suddenly felt that Yi Ning was not as simple as he had imagined, just a little rich second generation. Perhaps stopping Yi Ning and the two others was the stupidest decision Zhang Wanyan had ever made in his life. Quickly go! Zhang Wanyan saw that things were not going well and tried to quietly leave. Zhang Wanyan was afraid that Yi Ning would cause trouble for him, as this was obviously someone else's territory. But Yi Ning naturally would not give him that chance, and loudly told the several security guards on patrol, "Help me control those two people, don't let them escape." "Yes, boss." Several burly men came forward and surrounded Zhang Wanyan and his companion. Yi Ning put his hands in his pockets and walked up to Zhang Wanyan step by step. He said teasingly, "Run, why aren't you running?" "Kid, I'm the Minister of Commerce at Star Ocean Airlines, so you'd better think carefully." Even though he was surrounded by a group of people, Zhang Wanyan really didn't believe that Yi Ning would dare to do anything to him. Even if Yi Ning was powerful and influential, could he compare to those top gangsters in Zhongcheng? At least his status as the commercial director of an airline is not to be trifled with. "Well, I've thought it through." Yi Ning ponders for a moment and nods. Seeing Yi Ning give in, Zhang Wanyan breathes a sigh of relief. He even despises Yi Ning in his heart, thinking that he looks impressive but is in fact a pushover. At most, he has some money, which is no big deal. Take Director Zhang to the security office to stretch his muscles. If he does a good job, his bonus for this month will be doubled. Hearing that his bonus will be doubled, several security guards light up. They all grin from ear to ear, staring at Zhang Wanyan with smiles on their faces. "Kid, you believe this? If you dare to touch a single hair on my head, I, Zhang Wanyan, will sue you in the company's legal department." But Yi Ning was not fooled as Zhang Wanyan had imagined, but instead said with a smile, "I don't believe it, because you have already been fired from Shanghai Airlines." Saying this, Yi Ning held the screen of his mobile phone in front of Zhang Wanyan's face and waved it around. The number displayed was the phone number of Emoku, the head of Shanghai Airlines and its second largest shareholder. From the other end of the line came the furious voice of Emoku. "Zhang Wanyan, you're really something, threatening even the chairman. You're fired. Our Shanghai temple is small and can't accommodate such a big shot as you." Zhang Wanyan was shocked. What did he hear? Chairman? Emoku actually called Yi Ning the chairman? Is there anything more terrifying than this? There has always been a rumor at Star Ocean Airlines that there is a mysterious big boss above Emoku. Many people believe it, but even more people dismiss the rumor. Zhang Wanyan is one of them. He doesn't believe in any mysterious big boss. Would a mysterious big boss really ignore his own business? Or an airline company that is close to 20 billion yuan? Are you kidding me? But now he knows he was wrong. And he was very wrong. Because the young man in front of him, who looked incredibly young, was in fact the sole boss of their Shanghai Airlines. A super rich man who controlled the absolute majority of shares in Shanghai Airlines. "Dong, chairman, forgive me." Zhang Wanyan's words were cut short as he saw Yi Ning's teasing gaze and his expression darkened. He knew that no amount of begging would help. He was just a small business minister, but he had dared to covet the woman of the chairman of the board. Yi Ning didn't even look at him, and with the phone still attached to his ear, he said, "Have the personnel department check it out. Dismiss everyone Zhang Wanyan arranged to be hired. Also, regarding Zhang Wanyan's work style, collect the evidence and witnesses, and the legal department will prosecute him at the right time." Emoku's heart tightened slightly. Is this the big boss who has never met him before but controls the vast majority of the company's shares? His first order was so decisive, it was really extraordinary. "Yes, I'll get right on it," Emoku said seriously. Zhang Wanyan's eyes were filled with despair. He knew he was finished. But the expression on LVXIN's face next to him was extraordinary. This was the kind of man she wanted. Only a man like this could give her the life she wanted. So she mustered her courage and said, "Handsome, do you think I'm beautiful?" Yi Ning glanced at her indifferently and said calmly, "Even if you don't have a mother, that's no reason to belittle yourself. This job as a flight attendant isn't for you. Write your own resignation letter." Pa! Su Wire almost laughed out loud on the side, her face turning red with anger, looking very uncomfortable. "You're really bad." Su Wire whispered in Yi Ning's ear after the three of them left. "I've got something even worse, wife, want to try it?" Yi Ning said with a hee-hee laugh. Su Wire didn't expect him to be so bold, and she looked carefully at Chucho, who was walking in front of them. Seeing that she didn't react, she let out a small sigh of relief.